Spud's a good boy. Harry?
Harry?
Harry.
Harry,
You're not-
where
what?
are you?
Yeah, we couldn't hear you.
I got it the first time. I don't know why I was muted. Hey, good evening and welcome to the Minions of the Zoo. I'm your host, the Harry Channel. Now I'm muted. And
We've
with me
got this
tonight,
under control.
our minion. Well, I was actually going to joke and say that we were not going to have any technical problems tonight in the intro, but good thing I didn't do that. With me tonight are minions: Serenity Star 13,
Hello.
DrFunctional,
We control the horizontal and the vertical.
Geodes, who is a crab holding a knife.
Peace was never an option.
Peace was never an option. And SkepTock.
Hi, everybody.
Good evening, all. I think I should start with Serenity. We were talking about the weather. You said most of the weather avoided you in West Virginia?
The only place I got, like, there's flooding, like, my old elementary school, like, the water's touching the building.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's one of the closer big cities, which is Huntington, had to be declared a state of emergency, but that was mostly their own fault. Because the city because most of West Virginia we were trains, and Huntington's a train depot, or it used to be. So there's viaducts where the train tracks go over top and then the road dips under. Well, what happens is that the drains don't get cleared out, so all of the water collects there, and Huntington is also a college town, which means every dumbass from another state is like, oh, I'm fine, I'm an SUV, I can drive under this, and every Huntington person's going, no. And they get stuck every time.
Mm.
It's like clockwork. It's like, all right, who's the newbie who got stuck this year?
Wow.
But yeah,
I think I told you I had an attorney that actually died trying to cross a road that had water in it.
Oh yeah, my mom had a friend when she was younger that tried to cross a bridge in a Jeep Wrangler, and he thought the bridge was still all there, and he just went with it.
Cool.
Yeah, it's like, wow, this is the reason why I don't trust water on a road. I'm like, no.
Well, water in general does not have your best interest at heart.
Nope.
It really doesn't.
Like fire, it's like, fuck you, I'll go.
If you turn your back on the ocean, you get what you get.
Yep.
That's
Either
just-
by something in the ocean eating you, or the ocean just going, you're Cthulhu's minion now, come with me.
Oh, I mean, Australia in particular is just terrifying. Those little box jellyfish that they have, they're so small you can't see them when they're in the water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but sunfish eat those, and you hate sunfish.
I still hate sunfish.
They're trying to protect you, Harry.
Yeah, right. Hey, Functional, how you doing, man?
Yeah. I'm okay.
Yeah. All
Sorry,
systems
I
go.
was kind of zoning out there for a minute. I may or may not have eaten some adult candy.
That sounds
Salt
good.
brownies.
Never tried the stuff, but it seems like a fine idea.
It's relaxing. It's a lot more clear-headed than alcohol. I'm just not an alcohol person. Like, I appreciate a good drink, but to get inebriated or loose, I prefer other things. It was a great day. We actually had a really fun time, given the subject matter, on Star Trek stream today, because it was the end of Picard season 2 and the beginning of Strange New Worlds, and there was a lot to get just angry about, and it was fun and cathartic to let it all out on stream.
Okay, was that Skep trying to break in?
Yes.
Skep.
I was just making a comment about Alice B. Tokless.
Yeah. Oh god. Yeah, I actually gave up I haven't had any alcohol for, I don't know, a couple years now. And I tried to have some cider the other day, and I'm like, this isn't enjoyable. I'm not liking this. The hit of the alcohol just struck me as being kind of offensive. Which is a problem, because I have an awful lot of really good alcohol. And I'd kind of like to enjoy it. I don't know. I'll figure it out.
You don't occasionally have a drink with dinner? I didn't know that. I thought
I haven't. Well, I mean, it's not that there's like a rule. It's just that I haven't done it.
you haven't done it, yeah.
It's like I'm not involuntarily sober. I'm voluntarily sober.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Anyway.
like, I'll usually, every now and then maybe have a glass of wine or a small glass of whiskey or scotch or something, but, not like a drinker, and I don't like to get inebriated of it. I just like the experience. There's something about, like, the effervescence of something like a good scotch and the taste and just rolling it around on your tongue.
Yeah, I have a lot of scotch. Well, we can talk about that some other time. If I ever have a Friday night free, we can all crash Sanguine stream and talk about liquor. So, Geodes, how you doing, man?
I'm good. My brain's kind of on autopilot this last week. I've had a lot of conversations where I'll be talking with people, and I'll auto reply. I'll be like, "Oh yeah, sure," and then it hits me like a few seconds later what they've said, and then I start answering the question, or answering their statements. So I'm a little frazzled, but I'm good. So
Yeah, I think I've told a version of this story after the chat. I can't mention the name of the person, but there is this one guy that I know who's semi-famous, but he also says a lot of words that don't really mean anything. And if you stop paying attention for a moment and then try to find your way back into the conversation, you'll realize that he's not saying anything. It's like there's an illusion that something is being said until you let your attention waver for a moment, and then you're struggling to, okay, so what are we talking about? Wait, we're not talking about anything. What the hell?
Yep.
This guy just hits you with the stun beam, and you just sit there like you can't escape. You're just transfixed in just the wave of bullshit that washes over you.
At least he wasn't talking, moving from sentence to sentence, never changing topic. It was quite hypnotic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was much. Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Sorry, it was a Star Trek reference.
No, I get it. Hey, Skep.
Hey, how are you doing this evening, Harry?
I got some new gardening supplies, and it's always disappointing when you order like a hose. So I got this new hose supposed to be, kink-free and awesome and handle UV and all this sort of stuff.
A kink-free
Don't waste your money.
And I pick up this box. I'm like, this seems surprisingly light for $90.
Yes.
I have a feeling I've been had.
Yeah, that would have warned you away from the hoses that claim to be, non-kinky, because they usually are so lightly put together. That's the way they avoid the kinks.
Yeah.
Or they're just garbage and they're just lying to you.
Yep.
Anyway,
tried something new, didn't like it.
Yeah. And any hose, I mean, think about the topology of what a hose is. That thing is going to kink in the course of the operation of the hose. It's going to kink. Deal with it.
Yeah. So, just so you know, folks, we actually have really good penis news for the last story. It's not like that shitty penis news where I'm struggling to find some story with the word
now,
penis
is it the
in
news
It's
that's
gonna
good,
be a
or
good
is it
one.
news about good penis?
No, it's the quality of the news. I think is
high.
excellent. I think it's really good. I think this was a Geodes one. So if you hate it,
Excellent.
blame Geodes.
All right, Gio, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Of course.
No. Geodes did a good job and actually found us some penis news way better than the penis news I usually find. So please try to stick around till the end,
You gotta
folks, or
find
come
better
back.
penises, Harry. You gotta find better penises. Why would you not want a hoe who's kinky? Like, why?
That's true. I hadn't thought of it that way.
I'm just gonna say hi to.
Some
Now
fresh
I'm having-
news
now
hot
I'm
from
having-
the penis.
Now I'm having a little moment. Okay, moving on.
OnlyFans. Sorry.
Let's see. Okay, apparently Joseph Biden is having improving ratings slightly.
Mm.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Well,
President-
I tried to find like what their basis was because I wanted to find out how many Democrats they polled and all that kind of stuff over everybody else, and I couldn't find specifics on who they polled. So I don't know how truthful this is, but sorry, go on.
It feels like they've just maybe hit bottom a little bit. I mean, or it could just be that this Washington Post poll is crap. Right. So the poll conducted by the Washington Post and ABC News found that 42% of respondents approve of the way Biden is handling his job as president, up 5 percentage points from February's 37%. I'm very doubtful about this. 52% said they disapprove of what he's doing, which is down from 55. The president received his highest approval rating, 51%, on his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. Again, I'm just seeing these words and having trouble processing. He drew the lowest numbers for inflation, with only 28% of U.S. adults giving him positive marks. Well, now that COVID is less of a problem than it was in the big scheme of things, if inflation is what you're worried about, because it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Because for somebody like Skep, all of the money that he's made all of his life and put aside is now worth 90% as much as it was before. It's a huge kick in the damn balls.
Yeah, it is. It really pisses you off.
It really pisses you off, because why bother saving money? Because it's sort of like you have a contract, right? You work your ass off, you save responsibly, you retire, and and take care of your own shit, and the government doesn't have to bail you out. Everybody wins, right? But this doesn't work if some idiot comes in, prints a bunch of money, devalues the currency, and 10 cents on the dollar of all the money that you've saved during your life just goes poof. Because that's what inflation really is.
That's what it is. It is a loss of value. It is real. It is immediate. If you don't believe it, go get a tank of gas.
I have it on good authority that even in my state, there was a protest that was not talked about, and they wasn't like they were chanting "Let's go branding." They were chanting full on like "F you Biden" like the whole time.
Well, that was the thing that made me mad about the Washington. Yeah. I went to Washington Post's own thing. They broke down the breakdown of percentage wise, Democrats feel this way, Republicans feel this way, independents feel this way. And they had one other group. I can't remember what the other group was.
Whigs.
There you go. This way. And it's the Democrats kept saying obvious. And the thing is I know Democrats aren't blind. So who are they talking to? I don't write off an entire group of people because of political affiliation. And I do. Well, I try not to. I want to have hope. Well, those, yeah. No, I write commies off, burn in hell. But it's it was just all the Democrats all were polling higher, and that was the only reason why his percentage even was up where it was because I think everything the Democrats polled for was 51 or higher approval.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just okay, y'all, who are you talking to? And it's only, to be completely clear, it's only 1,000 and I think 4 or 43 or something like that.
1,004 adults in this particular one.
So it's bullshit to begin with.
Well, there's one more result here, which I'm just going to read and then we can move on. A poll of the generic midterm ballot, however, shows that the two parties are on equal footing. 46% of respondents said they would lean toward voting for a Democratic candidate if the election were held today, while 45% said they would side with a Republican candidate. So am I supposed to believe this poll or what my lying eyes are telling me?
Yeah.
Oh, real quick also, Jack in chat asks, if the dollar loses value, does that mean the national debt is worth less too? He might be being joking a little bit.
No, he's actually somewhat correct on that. So part of the issue is when people... Okay, when news is put together, it is infotainment, right? Mm-hmm. It's not really news anymore. So they produce news with a particular demographic in mind. So if you're making news about a news program for 35 and under, you would put a spin on it about, your paycheck doesn't go as far as it used to. Whereas if you're going more for the AARP card holders, then
people on fixed incomes,
then it becomes people on fixed incomes and look at how much less money you have to draw on. There's just different effects on different groups of people.
Right.
And a lot of the stuff that we see in terms of articles that, get posted in Discord, as candidates for things on the show, they deal much more with immediate spending things and tend to kind of overlook the more retired person's perspective on stuff. Because if you don't have a lot of belongings and you're living paycheck to paycheck, inflation is much less of a concern. I mean, unless it's Italian post-World War II style inflation, than it is for somebody who's on who's just retired and has a chunk of money that they don't want to have invested in the market, right? So they're just sitting there with money that's not making a whole lot of additional money. They're just losing it. They're just losing money that they need to retire on. All right, I don't want to beat this point up any further. Any other comments before we go on to the next thing?
Yep.
No, I don't think so.
Well,
Sweet.
sorry, one last comment. This was done between April 24th and 28th.
You mean
considering-
before the leak?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we actually had, I thought, a pretty good conversation on Tuesday about the Roe v. Wade leak thing. So I haven't put anything about that in tonight's show because I thought we did a really good job of talking about that on Skep show last Tuesday.
Yeah, I was there for a little bit.
Yeah, that
Well,
was-
I was in the comments for a little bit.
Yeah.
That was a good talk.
Yeah, I thought it
Love
went
to
pretty
have
well.
you on to any night Serenity, just so you know. Just in case there's
I
any
was still
doubt.
fighting power problems. I was having
I
surgeries the
know,
entire
I know.
time.
Don't give me your shabby excuses. Come on, let's
She
go.
was, she had,
Oh.
both she and Prospero had their water wings at the ready, I think.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Tied
All
floaties
right.
to the horses.
Next thing. Is that supposed to be the next thing? Wait a second.
Oh.
Oh,
It's
God,
me
everything is
corner.
all screwed up.
Oh, uh-oh.
Oh, God.
It's like the Biden administration.
Here.
Welcome,
We'll do it the
I
hard
learned
way.
it from watching you.
Dad.
Okay, White House
Do it
press
live.
secretary Karine Jean-Pierre's partner is a CNN correspondent.
Is she a lesbian?
Yeah.
Shocking.
Yes.
By the way,
Oh,
just
that's
I
nice.
wanted to say something about this. If you want an exercise in frustration, I want everybody to go and tell me what Karine Jean-Pierre's undergraduate major was. Go find that information. I spent an hour finding that out, and I finally found it out. It's hard as hell to find out. It just says she got a bachelor's in science from, New York Institute of Technology. Just, majored in science. She had a science degree, majored in science.
She blinded me with science.
She basically stumbled and flunked her way through New York Institute of Technology and has a busted pre-med major with grades so low she couldn't even get into a graduate biology program, much less med school.
So she makes Kamala Harris feel smart.
She's just what I hate is that the media thinks that they are protecting her. People people find that careers aren't right for them, but there's this feeling that no, we've got to make all these people, particularly if they're members of certain groups, into little godlings, people, so that the proletariat will worship them. That just pisses me off. It does her a disservice, because when you finally find that out, you say, well, obviously they were hiding it. I'm just pissed off that I spent that much time on it, but also just pissed off about the whole thing. And then she has a master's in public affairs. Now, I thought they call it an MPA, and they keep calling it an MPA. When I was in graduate school, that was a master's in public administration,
Mhm.
which is actually a fairly rigorous degree. That's a big time management degree, and there is some quantitative pieces to that. A master's in public affairs is a sociology degree, just so you know, except it's not as rigorous as sociology, if you take my meaning.
Exactly. Well, I was looking at this headline and trying to work up a head of steam about it, and I just can't, because it's like, compared to Gamergate, she's only sleeping with one journalist. So
Yeah, exactly. The other thing about this is Suzanne Malveaux, girl, that's research. That's doing your research. Seriously, good on you, girl.
Well,
That's
I mean, she's
Go ahead.
fucking, well, I'm about to say, this is kind of like fucking the captain of the Titanic. Like, she's fucking somebody on a sinking ship. I understand that she's in a relationship with a CNN correspondent, but CNN's kind of.
Have you seen a picture of Suzanne Malveaux?
I think I just did when I was looking for stuff.
let's see
Yeah,
what
yeah.
happens if I scroll down. Hey, no, that's Jen Psaki. Look,
Yeah.
Big Red looks like she's really enjoying that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that Suzanne Malveaux?
I think.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
That's her. That is her, and so she's black.
Is
looks
she?
tan.
Yeah, she is black. Do not say any other thing. She is black.
Let me
Is
guess.
she?
she's tan.
She identifies as black, she says.
Okay.
She's mixed. Then.
Can't make this stuff up. She says she has some Creole in her, and
I'm sure
that
she does.
is that. And she looks black. I mean, look,
She looked. Nope. I'm
Okay,
gonna
the
stop.
saying "you are what you eat."
Classically black.
I'm gonna make. Well, I was going to say a term.
No,
but I can't say the term because it's bad.
Okay. Yeah, let's remember we broadcast in the name of the minions here.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
no, it's
no. That is a black woman right there, and that surprised me because she does not look. She's not black appearing to me, as they say.
who's Dolezal. Dolezal looks more.
Yeah. Rachel Dolezal is darker than that.
Yeah.
Put in effort.
Let me see. I'm just looking for a useful.
Rachel Dolezal looks like a fucking Nubian princess compared to this.
Oh yeah. Oh no, the funniest thing when I was looking on stuff about her, apparently one of the news websites, and I can't find it now, made a comment. It's like, Jen Psaki is loved for her witty comebacks. I was like, what witty comebacks? Do you have a video of these witty comebacks? Because I need to see these when she's getting asked by press. I'm like, what? We'll circle back and then never doing it? That's not wit. Some of the stuff is so bad, and it's such bull. Oh God! Oh,
Not saying anything. Okay. Anyway, that
Who
is
cut the cheese?
That's white chocolate, my friend.
yeah, that's white chocolate.
All right. Let's get this technically challenged show moving forward.
I would rather have cheese, though, really, than chocolate. But anyway.
Democratic Republican lawmakers speak out against Biden's disinformation board. Cancel this whole thing. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that, but it is nice that at least they found a handful of Democrats who would go along with this. Not very many.
The
Illinois
disinformation.
Democrat.
They're thinking about what would it be like with a Republican disinformation board.
Exactly.
That's what they're thinking about.
That's
They
what they should
never
be
think.
thinking about.
They never
Yeah.
think about when the other side has power. No one does. It's like, you understand, a person you're not going to like is going to have control of this, right?
No,
Well-
they think it's going to go on forever
I know.
Right.
the way it
It's-
was going on. That's the
Harry, you
thing.
took the words right out of my mouth. These people think that they are going to be in charge of everything forever, and that as they succeed with more and more of their agenda, that they will obtain even more power and can lock things down the way they want it even more. That's the way these guys think. They, as I say, practically every stream, they're making Robespierre's error. The leaders of the revolution do not stay the leaders of the revolution because what they're good at is revolution. They're not good at running a country or building a country or administering a country. They're good at stirring up people and making for government change. Well, guess what? That's the last thing the new government wants, is more government change. There's been enough government change, and that's why Robespierre found himself looking up at the at the lady.
And all the majority, especially the administration, all they can do is just react. They're hyper reactionary. Any L's they get, they have to react and cover and do whatever. But if Republican side gets a W, or I'm not even going to say Republican, I mean just Freedom gets a W with the whole Twitter Elon thing, they realize, oh shit, one of our biggest tools for controlling media is now not under our control anymore, and so they have to react. They have to do something. They don't think anything through. It's just react. Good idea, bad idea, it doesn't fucking matter. We have to do something.
I mean, you think it's one of those things, like, most of these people, except for like the Squad, were like in power when the filibuster was brought back by the Democrats. You think they would have learned, but no, they don't. They never learn.
Apparently, their ratings are down too.
Oh
in
yeah,
their districts. I mean, the
Hallelujah.
Dems are panicking. They're excuse me. They're panicking. They're putting up a whole lot of fluff into the air and trying to distract and trying to do what they can to win. Some of it, legitimate, just trying to win. Some of it not so legitimate, maybe. But they're just doing anything and everything they can because they're looking at the numbers, they're looking at people's responses to the cost of food and fuel and energy, and they're just going, this is nuts. I can't keep voting. And hopefully enough people will say, I can't keep voting for these types of policies if they're going to keep doing the same thing. I'm going to take a chance on, and yeah, totally right. Like the if this were to get into place, it's the more forward-thinking Democrats who are like, yeah, I'm with these guys. You guys are crazy because this is a tool that nobody should have.
What Democrats have come out against this thing?
Well, there's one from Illinois.
But I mean, big shot Democrats.
None.
People. The reason I asked the question is, you're going to have some major person, and in the Democratic Party, I think you probably have to have one representative from the squad and one representative from the semi-normal Democrats to provide political cover for Democrats who want to protest this insanity. And I don't think there's enough courage in the Democratic Party right now to do that, even though probably a lot of them know this is wrong.
Yeah, AOC will come out against it as soon as President DeSantis gets sworn in. That's basically what it's going to take.
Well, it's combine this with the COVID lockdowns from before. It's a going to be a real mess. So
I don't want to. Okay, moving on. Let's see. So there's this thing that was on the Tweety. This should happen nationwide. So here's this little sign, and somebody just said, "Okay, vote to mask your child," or voted to mask your child.
Yeah.
It's like the accountability part of things is starting to kick in.
Yeah.
So all of the good and bad decisions that people made over the last 2 years are going to come back to, either buoy them or sink them, which
and
is
thankfully,
good.
This is very peaceful. This is very just matter of fact, peaceful. It's not an attack. It's just saying the truth. Like, hey guys, this is the person who did it. They did that a while ago up here when we had the problem with the let's call it grooming curriculum in Ontario schools, and people put up those signs next to other signs and said, yeah, these people are teaching your kid about your 5-year-old and 6-year-old about how to masturbate. Like,
I don't know, grooming, isn't that a dog whistle for far right white supremacy or something? I don't know. I forget.
Just remember, the parents that care about this are terrorists, of course.
Oh, right. We don't support terrorism. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, my mistake.
This is just part of... Oh, go ahead, Serenity, and then I'm going to...
Well, no, this is the only thing I have to say, because I've noticed some people are taking the term groomer too far. People are going to turn the word groomer into the word like Nazi and white supremacist, where it's going to mean shit.
Mm-hmm.
Be careful with the word, not because I think someone's going to judge you, but because you are going to turn it into mean nothing. That is my one statement on the word.
Well, rhetorically speaking, I think the word right now has power.
Right now,
and
yeah.
Right now it has power, and a lot of these people are trying to do is just get somebody to pay attention.
Yeah.
So I think the short-term gain might actually outweigh... Okay, it's like an antibiotic. It's like an antibiotic, right? Mm-hmm. We've got an infection, and we're using this antibiotic, and we know that it's going to become resistant to it fairly quickly. Mm-hmm. But for the immediate problem we have at hand, this might actually be not the worst approach. But you are right.
Yeah, that's my worry, because I've already started to see it happen.
People you need a follow-on plan, because this is not going to last for very long, because you're just going to overuse it. Yeah. It's go ahead, Skep. You were going to say something.
Yeah, this Tiffany Johnson picture you have up, and then there's a sign next to it that says "Voted to mask your child."
Mm-hmm.
Now you see Tiffany Johnson, Rutherford County School Board, and you see it's predominantly red. So you immediately think to yourself, this is probably a Democrat, because that's what the Dems do. They always paint their signs in red in places where there are a lot of Democrats. Oh, I forgot to tell you, this is in Tennessee. Tiffany Johnson is a Republican, but she is what Republicans refer to as a rhino.
Yep.
Is a somewhat liberal or Rockefeller Republican, occasionally votes with Democrats, that kind of a thing. And I'm curious as to whoever put the "voted to mask your child" is either a Democrat who's trying to get over on Tiffany Johnson, but then I saw no. This was for a primary election. I was researching this out while you were talking, Harry. Sorry.
Sure.
And it turns out that this was for a Republican primary. I think that voted to mask your child. I'll bet you that sign was put there by a Republican who wanted to put the knife in Tiffany Johnson for being a rhino.
Oh yeah.
I just thought you might find that interesting.
No, I do find it interesting.
Yeah.
But this is the beginning of an arc, not the end of it. Let me move on to the next thing. You'll see why in a moment. You'll thank me later.
Okay.
Will we, Harry? Will we?
Yeah. California's population fell again amid pandemic's second year.
Imagine my shock.
California's population declined again in 2021 for the second consecutive year, state officials said Monday, and the result of a slowdown in births and immigration, coupled with an increase in deaths and people leaving the state. With an estimated 39,185,605 residents, I don't think those are all significant digits, Skep.
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, that at what moment in time was that true?
I know. California is still the U.S.'s most populous state, blah, 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 blah. California is tantalizingly close to the 40 million milestone. The state's population is now roughly back to where it was in 2016 after declining by 117,000 people this year. The point of this is that decisions have repercussions. Right? So sometimes you get a little sign. Other times people just vote with their feet because they're just tired of it. They can be tired of any number of different things. I can't tell you whether it's the taxes or the hostile business environment or the fact that a lot of people just figured, hey, you're willing to pay this much for my house, I'm going to go retire somewhere else. There's probably a whole bunch of reasons why this is happening. But if you look at states where people are moving to, it's like they were the more permissive states under COVID. You know, where are people going? Texas, Tennessee, Florida. You know, where are they leaving? The places that had the most stringent
California,
lockdowns.
New York, Connecticut, Illinois. Yeah.
I mean, Elon Musk got in trouble with the acting health director for, I can't think it was Alameda or San Mateo County. No, I forget which county it was, but it was in the East Bay. And he got in trouble with this temporary acting interim health director who kept trying to basically drive him out of business and make it so he could not make cars. And he just finally said, look, you know, if you keep doing this, I'm just going to not build my new gigafactory here. And what did he do? He built it in Texas. And not only did he build it in Texas, he'd probably still be dealing with environmental impact reports if he tried to build it here.
That's absolutely right.
He probably, to be honest, had already made the decision to build it in Texas before that even happened. Because he's not an idiot.
Well, yeah, in Texas, to say that we are welcoming to big business, in the sense that, you know, we welcome big business with a big sloppy kiss for sure. And I know he got all kinds of tax incentives to put that gigantic factory out in East Austin. East side of Austin.
Yes. Well, here, one more thing. Let's see. So we're talking about California. Okay, here we go, folks. Satellites detect California cow burps, a major methane source from space.
The individual burps.
So this is kind of a problem because this is part of things being hostile. California has taken it upon themselves to try to fix the environment on our own. Satellites have detected methane emissions from belching cows at a California feedlot, marking the first time emissions from livestock, a major component of agricultural methane, could be measured from space. Excuse me. Environmental data firm GHGSat this month analyzed data from its satellites and pinpointed the methane source from a feedlot in the agricultural Joaquin Valley near Bakersfield, California. Now, they're not doing this just because it's a fun exercise.
No. Well,
they're doing this for a reason.
Methane is 1/5 of all the gases they don't like, the greenhouse gases that they call them. 1/5 of it is methane.
You mean 1/5 of the effect?
No, 1/5 of the how did they break? Don't just say 1/5. Don't
overthink it.
Don't overthink that.
Okay,
it's a substantial amount of it. But methane, the climate scientists who studied this, say that it's responsible for probably this one says 25% of the already observed changes to the Earth's climate. It's a lot worse. It's like 5 times as an effective heat keeper than CO2 is, and it's a real that's actually a real problem. The interesting thing is these guys are measuring tiny amounts of methane, and there are big sources of methane all over the Earth.
yeah.
Huge amounts of methane come spilling out of the bowels of the Earth,
And
all
CNN.
the time. Much more than what the animals and agricultural action, the methane produced by that. So it's interesting if they're getting good enough to where they can actually see the, I guess you'd call it incremental methanization of the atmosphere according by cows. How do they know they're measuring that, Harry?
Well, usually what you would do is you would have an optical sensor that worked in the frequencies that are absorbed by the methane gas. So if you look at the light that's going down to the Earth and then the reflected infrared that's sent back, both of those have to pass through the blanket of methane that's produced. By measuring the change from what you would expect it to be of the absorption or reflection of, depending on what gas it is you're talking about, you can determine how much of something there is, not just whether it's actually present.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely.
Now, this just means that the resolution of the sensors is such that they can look at a very small square of things when they run this thing. So essentially, the resolution is higher. The technology itself isn't all that new. It's just that it's just been refined to the point where you can measure what's coming off of an individual feedlot.
I want to know how they know that is not how they know what percent of a feedlot's measurement is coming from the Earth and how much is coming from the cows. Because if you have a feedlot, for example, that's anywhere near a swamp, that swamp will dwarf whatever. I don't care how big your feedlot is. That swamp will probably dwarf your feedlot in terms of putting methane in the atmosphere.
I don't think this is close enough to the delta that it's likely to be near a swamp. But your point well taken. The main thing is they want to measure this because they're going to screw with the food that you eat. That's generally the plan. So they're saying agriculture contributes 9.6% to U.S. greenhouse gas emissions, according to the EPA, and about 36% of methane emissions, mostly from livestock. So the Europeans are not going to let this go. Northern Ireland, go away. Northern Ireland faces loss of 1 million sheep and cattle to meet climate targets. Now, just like shutting off a pipeline didn't affect gas prices, I'm sure this won't impact consumers in any way.
No, not at all. 1 million livestock in Ireland, that's a huge...
No, this is just Northern Ireland.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't even
bigger.
Ireland. This
That's
is just
even
that
bigger
little,
than Ireland.
This is that
Northern
little
Ireland's
postage
much bigger.
stamp.
Idiots.
Wasn't there a famine at one point, like just a couple hundred years ago, with a bunch of Irish people like
It was
dying?
in the 19th century, yes.
When those potato jockeys ran out of French fries, it was not
Well,
good.
less sheep means more room for potatoes.
There you go.
Yeah, and more
Fishing's hard.
government-induced
Fucking
famine.
morons.
Woohoo!
Fishing's hard. Potatoes are tasty. Let's just do that.
Hey! Potatoes are nutritionally dense, and they are an amazing food. Do not fuck with the potatoes.
This is just huge. Large-scale reduction in farm animals comes after the passing of the jurisdiction's first-ever Climate Act, requiring the farming sector to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2050. And that's actually easy enough to do with offsets, okay? But reducing methane emissions by almost 50% over the same period. Well, see, that's where you start having problems. That's not so easy to do without just reducing
is-
the number of livestock.
This is a classic business problem. This is called sub-optimization. When you do things at a lower level in an organization that make you feel good and technically conform to some regulation that has been put together with the idea of achieving some overall goal, but actually work against the goal in the long term, which is what this will do. This is sub-optimization. This is classic. This is classic stuff right here.
Well,
Idiots.
this is terrible noise.
Jack in chat actually had a pretty good comment. Let me find it. Says these people are all about nickel and dime solutions. They avoid the huge problems because it's politically inconvenient. He's not wrong. These people will never do anything that gets anywhere near them having to show any political courage, because no matter how good or bad it is for the country, their reelection, the security of their seat in government and control comes first and foremost. The people can just get by with whatever.
There's no money in fixing problems.
Yeah.
No money in
Well, I'm
fixing
just trying
problems.
to sort of paint the lines around this issue, and then we need to talk about solutions. Here's a thing that somebody's actually trying, again from California, just a coincidence. To fight climate change, California approves seaweed that cuts methane emissions in cow burps.
Okay.
I was as surprised as anybody. California dairy farmers will soon be able to feed their cows seaweed to fight climate change after the State Department of Food and Agriculture approved the use of a seaweed feed shown to reduce methane emissions from cow burps, the first in the U.S. to do so.
Yeah, they've been talking about that seaweed for the last few years.
I have.
remember
This is the
seeing-
first I've heard about it.
Oh, they've been talking about it for, I think the last time I heard it was like because there's cattle farmers near here, like 5 years ago. And my big thing is like, I need like a 10-year study to know if it fucks with the meat.
Yeah, well,
Or I
called
wanna eat it.
Brahminata, the red seaweed variety has been shown to cut methane emissions in dairy cows by 52% over 50 days, but so far has only been used in trials.
Yeah. Like I said, I need a
then
10-year study.
I think I marked this part in red here at the end. Red seaweed is also shown to reduce the methane emissions of beef cattle by 82% in a study published by UC Davis, actually very fine university. The seaweed supplement,
Yeah, it
which
is.
only makes up a tiny portion
Okay,
of cattle's diet,
Oh,
is
it's-
not known to change the flavor of beef or milk.
I'm not
That would be
talking
the
about-
part you're talking about, right? You want to see
No.
what it does.
Well, okay, changing the flavor. Maybe I'm more worried about it causing chemical problems in the meat that could make some people have allergic reactions. That kind of stuff.
This may make you feel better.
There you
The
go.
way that the way they discovered all this was through it was a Nova Scotia university. I forget what it was, and they started. I read this a long time ago. They were doing stuff with feeding seaweed to cows to get them to produce more milk, and it actually works. The thing with the gas was an unintended side effect. They had no idea. They couldn't figure out why the cows stopped farting, and it evidently really is quite profound. The reduction in gas is substantial, like 50% is what I'm seeing in the report after
I think it was Dalhousie University, Skep.
I think.
Okay.
Don't quote me on it, but I think that's the one. 'cause I
Is that a
remember what you were
university?
talking about.
Oh, Dal. I call it Dalhousie. Dalhousie is that? Dalhousie, is that how you say that?
Yeah.
I've never known how to say that. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That's in Nova Scotia. Yeah, that's right.
So I like this picture where they have this cow, and the caption says, a cow that was fed a seaweed dietary supplement peeked over the side of a machine that measures the emissions of methane and other gases emitted by
She's
each
saying
cow
hi.
as they feed from the trough attached to the machine at the Strauss Dairy Farm
Yeah,
in Marshall.
that's a Jersey. I was about
Now-
to say that it has to be a dairy farm because that's a
Now,
Jersey.
what I like about this is it's like we're teaching the cows to be more comfortable around offset smokers. I think that's...
Mhm.
Well, it is a Jersey. They're dumber than a bag of rocks anyway.
It's your destiny, Luke.
I think one would walk into one willingly if you put enough food in it.
Actually, Strauss Creamery is actually a pretty good outfit. If you're in
Yeah.
California and you want And you want butter without like, if you want the good butter, that's not
good
like the
butter.
ridiculous butter, or the good cream, you go Strauss. That's
Did-
good stuff.
To
Desensit-
Serenity. Oh, go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, desensitize them young, so that way they release less stress hormones in long
Exactly.
term. Yeah.
Because
Or
that'll
just
make the
slaughtered,
meat
yeah.
taste bad.
Yeah, just
Mhm.
don't. Or just to have them be a Jersey and they're dumb.
But the Serenity, to your point, like at least it's not some new like hormone or pharmacological route or something that mRNA technology, something like that. It's just like, hey, we're putting some of this red seaweed in with their feed, and it's making them less gassy. I mean, that's like when a dog eats grass or a cat eats grass, it helps with reducing their internal distress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they actually do that more for the laxative effect, but that does make them feel better.
I'm just terrified for the Ireland thing because the good butter comes from Ireland.
Yeah.
I just mean, Skep, it's something that's not
Yeah.
normally in their diet that just helps
Right,
with
exactly.
their gastrointestinal process.
They
And we
they know
find
they
out
eat it
these kinds of things
when they're
all
feeling
the time.
they know to eat it when they're feeling bad, and that is instinctive. I've always found that interesting too. Functional. I
And
think so.
seaweed is such an easy, cheap crop relative.
Where are
to,
we gonna
to
get it?
cultivate. Oh, I think this one comes from Hawaii.
Oh, that's going to make the Hawaiians even more pissed. Great.
Why?
The Hawaiian natives are always complaining about they don't want tourists around. You can't wear certain
Well, I mean, this is
sunscreens
just-
in the water. Now
it's
they're going to be
just
mad because the
industry.
seaweed's going away. Oh, they're going to overfarm it. I'm sorry. I think we just need to kick Hawaii out of the 50 states at this point. But that's anyway.
That's what they want.
Oh, I know.
By the way,
That's
See,
the reason
no.
why part of me is also like, well, maybe we shouldn't kick them out. Maybe we should make them more. Maybe we should build fake islands and slowly build stepping stones to America. Really piss
Yeah.
them off.
Give
Well,
them
they're
to
still mad
Japan.
about what is it, Dragon Ball Z, because they appropriated the Kamehameha.
Oh yeah, no. Bunch of
Cultural
morons.
appropriation, man.
Yeah.
I
That's
can't wait
Japanese.
until it dies out.
I was going to say, give them to Japan because they already have a bunch of anime portraying Hawaii. So there you go.
But yeah, Japan's obsessed with Hawaii. Obsessed.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
I might have to. I don't want to get banned from Hawaii, so I'm not going to comment on that. Anyway,
I have no plans.
so
to go in
one more thing about the new obsession with methane, because there's more. There's
Oh,
more.
boy.
They're doing this whole thing in California where we're all going to have to separate our food scraps now because of methane. And that's not going to cause problems at all because they're replacing things with these new trash cans that effectively, it's like 30%, where you used to have 100% for trash. You now have 60% for trash, 30% for waste, and 10% of overhead for the divider between these two sections. They've thought it out so well.
So they're trying to turn you in Japan because that's how Japan is.
Yeah, it's terrible
Yeah.
because if you're looking at individual houses, it's not such a big deal. But any kind of multi-family housing type thing where nobody really owns the garbage, it's just a place where you throw things to make them go away, and it's somebody else's problem to make it all work. It's just a disaster.
Yeah, I mean,
Harry, go ahead, Functional.
I was just quickly like they did that here. It's actually not that bad the way they implemented it because the multi-unit homes like apartment buildings and multi-floor walk-ups and stuff generally don't have to separate their food waste, but individual homes do have to separate the garbage from the food waste, and of course then there's plastic metal recycling. Implemented fairly well.
Yeah, but it does mean that the amount of space you had to throw away garbage is now 40% less than it was. And that's a problem for a lot of people who were kind of on the edge already. Because especially in the multi-family housing type things, they never have enough trash cans. Some idiot decides to move, that they're going to move out, right? And then, so what do? They throw away everything they own and fill up all the trash cans. Not to mention the maximum size of things you can fit in the trash cans just got a lot smaller. Because the trash can effectively got smaller. Anyway, that's
Don't
not
really
the point.
see the problem because I mean, in your scenario, why throw all that away? Why can't just drop it off at a Goodwill or other donation center, a church, something? Like, I mean, I don't buy this shit that we can keep going on the way we are in just constantly dumping the amount of trash, and people have to make less trash.
Well, the ocean's big. We've got room.
I mean, there's a reason why we need to separate
Nobody's
hard
gonna
trash
find it if you just dump it in the
from
ocean.
compostables and recyclables because that helps. It's helped quite a bit. I mean, we still have a problem sending all this garbage overseas. Half of it's getting dumped in the ocean. It's just not good. Just, I don't know.
Oh no, we can't dump stuff in the ocean. That's where we're going to get the seaweed so that we can feed the cows so we can continue to have beef. Okay.
Well, how are you going to grow seaweed
Seaweed's
if you
not gonna
don't
eat
dump
plastic.
trash in the ocean?
That's what the Europa microbes are for.
Okay. So, and one final thing, study. Gas stoves emit greenhouse gases even when not in use. This is, as somebody already foreshadowed, they keep looking at the wrong stuff. Okay? The real problem, if you care about methane, there are two major sources of methane that they should pay attention to. One is all of the broken gas lines
Yep.
in the
To
U.S.
Brian Stelter.
end up, yeah, and two is Brian Stelter, is, just basically put out tons and tons of this stuff. Also, every house that has its own gas meter, there's a little device on it called a burp valve.
Yep.
And it regularly, as part of its normal operation, just puts a little bit of methane out into the atmosphere.
Yep.
Those things dwarf all of the stuff that's being found in this study about gas stoves. But we're so obsessed with food scraps and cow farts and pilot lights that we've lost track of the fact that the major thing is that. And the other one is, if you're looking for a tipping point where Greta starts to become more credible, it's a bad idea to thaw the permafrost in the north. Because what happens is all that organic matter that's trapped there will suddenly start decomposing.
when you have organics decomposing.
Yeah, that would be bad. You would get a ton of methane out of that.
Oh, yeah.
But luckily, the thing is, methane there's a cycle for methane like there is for CO2. It's not that long lasting. So things that happen in methane can cause short-term changes, but they don't necessarily cause long-term equilibrium issues. So changes we make now actually make a big difference.
Yeah.
Realistically speaking, they should probably build a bunch of nuclear reactors, have a lot more and a lot more solar and a lot more solar batteries, install heat pumps. Heat pumps are much more efficient than gas. We just get rid of gas for all of the residential stuff. You just really don't need it. And if that's the trade-off I have to make to still be able to eat a hamburger 30 years from now, I'm going to take that because I really don't like... I would rather be annoyed by something like not being able to have a gas stove than to have some micromanaging bureaucrat tell me what I can and cannot eat.
Harry, you got a news thing playing.
Oh,
That's like that kind of shit's.
it's
going
Fred
way too
Savage. He
far.
got fired from the Wonder Years reboot. Okay.
I heard about that.
Mercy. But well, no, it's like I live out in the country, as everybody knows. And we have one of the gas meters near us, and like it burps enough that we can smell the gas. That's how much it burps.
Okay, Geodes, do not have a picture of Brian Stelter on your
Oh
avatar.
God damn it!
Functional was trying to beat you to it, and he failed. But we don't have a gas stove at my house. We only have a gas furnace. So,
But
I
you
still
have a
think-
gas line coming into the house. That's the point.
Oh yeah, no, I know, and it's one of those things like, if we ever get solar panels on this house, hell yeah, I'll go for a heat pump. But for right now, we had power go out during the wintertime, and the only thing that kept a lot of it going was the fact that we have a backup battery on the furnace for the pilot light, so it stays on, and the heat was able to still and the backup battery for the blower. Those things were the only thing that kept the house warm when the power went out.
No, I'm not gonna live in my habitation pod eating bug protein and pretending that I like it. I'm not gonna like it. I don't
Oh yeah,
want it.
no, I'm not going to tell you to fake it, but you're going to be in California. It'll hit you before it hits me.
In the
Yeah.
words of Ranting Monkey, Harry, just let it happen.
No,
Yeah.
just lie back
Let it
and think
happen.
of Greta.
Ew, 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 ew. Oh wait, she's over 18 now. We're fine. Okay.
I have no problem if people want to eat the bugs.
Yeah.
Don't
Don't make
force
me eat
other
the
people,
bugs.
and don't
Yeah.
force other people to not eat what they want to
I
eat.
think we've reached a natural segue here. Biden
penis.
official says food shortages will push farmers to green energy. Never let a crisis go to waste.
Someone
She
punched
seems
that
nice.
bitch. Oh, look at her trying to
Um,
be hip. Is that a leather jacket or is that just really silky looking? Either way, she's trying to look
Silky.
cool. It's like, no, you a stupid bitch. Get off the screen.
Well, that's Samantha Power. So, speaking of the global consequences of Russia's war with Ukraine, the Biden official said that fertilizer shortages would provide farmers the opportunity to hasten their transition from fertilizer to more natural resources. Well, it's not going to be cow shit if you get rid of all the cows. Anyway,
What the fuck
Well,
is
what's
more
a
natural than
resource than
composting?
fertilizer? What is? Tell me, lady.
fertilizer actually, most fertilizer isn't natural. That's the thing.
I mean, well, that's what I'm used to around here, but continue.
Yeah. So fertilizer shortages are real now because Russia is a big exporter of fertilizer. Blah, 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 blah. So never let a crisis go to waste. You know, she's really embraced the Rahm Emanuel thing, and she's saying the quiet part out loud. That's
Bless her heart.
staggering to me. Yeah, I mean, bless her heart. Oh, there's Joe Biden. Oh, God. So I was actually thinking about this dumb statement that she made. And I thought I'd bring up some actual data about fertilizer use. Now, if you look at the world, can everybody see this? Yeah, okay. You can see that here in the United States, we use 72.61 kilograms of nitrogen fertilizer per hectare of farmland.
Mm-hmm.
We're one of the major users of this stuff, but we're not the only one. Brazil uses more.
Yeah.
You know, they use quite a bit of it
Oh,
in China,
China,
219.56 kilograms per hectare.
Well,
That's
I
an
mean,
enormous amount, which essentially means they're just throwing fertilizer on rock and trying to make stuff grow.
Well, the
Where would
reason
you
is
start?
they overuse their fields. They don't let fields don't lie fallow. In general.
Yeah, they don't. No, they don't. Mm-mm. It's bad.
They don't
It's real
rotate.
bad.
Oh,
Yeah,
wait,
that's
And
not a
the
sign
reason
of
they're
good
the reason they're
practices.
using all the nitrogen is because the way that a fallow field recovers nitrogen, I know Harry knows this,
Mhm.
is mostly through rain and some nitrogen fixing bacteria.
Can you? Oh, sorry.
That's okay. That's all.
But it's
No, no,
it's
well,
it's nitrogen fixing bacteria and stuff like that. It also, like, you want to tell it, but you don't want to tell it. It's a whole process because there's a farmer that lives across the dirt road from me, and I always know what fields he's using because I can tell just by looking out which ones are fallow, which ones are not. Soybeans can help also in the interim. 'Cause
Most
sometimes they'll-
legumes are nitrogen fixers.
Yeah,
And
so
they
they'll-
basically will pump nitrogen into the soil through their roots.
Yeah, because that's what he does. He'll plant soy beans in most of them because we actually produce a lot of soybeans down here in West Virginia. Not any major amount, but more than you'd think. But yeah, no, it's like that's usually what's done. In China, just at this point.
And sorry, Big Head, I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were done with your thought.
Brian still thinks
Can
big
quickly,
head.
Harry, before you go away from this, can I see some of the other Western countries, Australia, Canada, Britain?
Sure.
Just to get some
let's
sort of
see.
perspective.
So Britain, 168 kilograms per hectare. So
Okay.
you wanted Canada, 64. So
Makes
basically the
sense.
same as the U.S.
Yeah, we've got a lot of good land for farming, so we probably need less
Yeah.
than a lot of
And-
these smaller countries where, yeah, you can see that they're just dumping it on.
Oh,
Poor
okay. So
Africa. Poor Africa.
historically, you know, if we look at where this, how we ended up where we are today, right?
Mhm.
It used to be that we didn't have these sort of synthetic fertilizers. So what they do is they use this process called the Haber process, which is one of the most important industrial processes ever developed. We would not have a population of 8 billion-ish people on this planet if it wasn't for the Haber
Yeah.
process. We just wouldn't. If you want to have lots and lots of people
is
be
this
alive,
ammonia?
this is what you need. Yeah. So essentially, this is the process by which you extract nitrogen from the air to create ammonia. The old process was you would use ammonia from animal urine, but producing it from the air works a lot better, and we produce a ton of this stuff. So it said, throughout the 19th century, the demand for nitrates and ammonia for use as fertilizers in industrial feedstocks has been steadily increasing. The main source was mining niter deposits and guano from tropical islands. Now, we are not going to support 8 billion people using cow shit and back guano. You have to have, like, cheap energy. You have to have a process for getting ammonia out of the air. This idea from this Biden administration person that, oh, we're just going to use organic fertilizer and it'll all be fine is like Cinco levels of naive. It's just completely and utterly wrong. It's not going to work.
It seems like it would be a healthier idea
Yeah, it'd be
to
totally
use
healthy.
like natural sources.
Yeah, to give you an idea of the scope of the problem we're talking about, as of 2018, the Haber Process produces 230 million tons of anhydrous ammonia per year.
250 million tons, ladies and gentlemen.
This is what it takes to make the ammonium nitrate that fertilizes the fields that feed people around the world.
That all the bat guano that was ever produced would not be enough for that.
Yeah.
Oh man, and plus from organic sources, like life sources. You have a lot of very similar chemicals that are mixed in there that you have to spirit the ammonia away from. Fortunately, ammonia is one of those chemicals that it's got a really convenient handle on it. It's real easy to move it around.
Well, if we had, I don't know, maybe 1/5 as many people on the planet, and we had good organic farming practices, and we were taking food from places where it's really fertile and moving it efficiently to places where it's harder to grow food,
it's still better to use the chemical process.
we would not be all starving to death. But between cutting the livestock and making it hard to grow crops, this seems like a bad idea. And the Biden people seem to be just whistling past the graveyard.
Well, they've adopted bad idea after bad idea. As a result, we have black unemployment going up. We have inflation out the wazoo, and with the unemployment problem, we may get stagflation out of this. They may do the impossible and reproduce the Carter miracle. And anyway, don't get me started.
I'm sorry. Well, I just, before we all get terribly depressed, I want to move past that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind.
I wonder why we don't just skip the middleman and just eat the bats.
We tried that.
Tastes like chicken.
Oh, damn it! Right.
Bat soup. Okay.
No, never again. Never again.
Let's head down to the wet market for lunch.
As we continue talking about the long-term effects of COVID, something that was in the news recently is they were talking about just how screwed we are because students haven't really learned all that much during the lockdown in a lot of cases. Mm-hmm. So I thought I would look at some actual data instead of just the pablum that we're normally being served. So here's a study looking at Spanish students, 9th grade mathematics students, and it basically compares their performance in the year before the pandemic and their first year of the pandemic with the distance learning.
Spanish as in Spain?
As in Spain.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we're not I'm trying not to be the ugly American here. So I found this, 9th grade Spanish students. We're seeing a reduction in academic performance of 22.17% overall. And the effect on male students was 42.31% larger than on the female students.
Holy shit.
This is not a good situation. The conclusion that they arrived at was changes in educational setting, students' lack of motivation, monotony, and students' level of responsibility were qualitatively reported as factors that may explain the phenomenon. The main conclusion of this study is that the COVID-19 pandemic may be significantly and negatively affecting 9th grade students' mathematical achievements. Okay, it's a data point. Okay. A data point among data points. Here's looking at North Carolina students, School of Education. They were looking at, 3rd graders. So in spring of 2021, 44% of tested 3rd graders in North Carolina public schools reached proficiency benchmarks in mathematics compared with 65% in 2019.
What?
The trend is good. How do we get it below 40%?
Yeah, that'd be cooler.
Yeah.
The district students attended rather than just their school accounted for, this district students attended rather than just their school accounted for 43% of the total variation in learning lag between spring 2019 and spring 2021, compared with 6% between spring 2018 and spring 2019. The data shows that remote learning explains only a fraction of the pandemic's impact on student learning. Some fully remote school districts demonstrated better test scores, performance relative to the state average, while some in-person school districts underperformed relative to other districts.
And there are so many variables that go into what makes a student perform or not perform in a given situation. You'll never get any sense out of this, I don't think.
I think there's a few things we can sort of determine from this. One is we reduced accountability for a lot of students by making it remote.
Yeah. Yes.
And the other thing is, I think what we're going to find is that in the home environment, there's either not the support or not the space to allow the attention needed to do something like mathematics. You have to actually be mathematically mature mentally to do math. It isn't about having the neurons being able to connect. It's also about just having the discipline and the attitude and the desire to actually learn this stuff. And without like a nun with a ruler ready to hit you on your knuckles, some people just won't do this stuff. Sending them home and putting them on the honor system is not enough.
Or you see things like that test that I saw from an Oregon public school. That's a public school where along with the math problem, you get to read a story about some urban environment where somebody is, it's just a story about life in some urban environment. And then the multiple choice math test has the solution to the math problem that you read, but along with that is an answer that they ask you about the paragraph that you read. So you can, if you identify correctly, yes, Jody's mom is sleeping around. It's Jody's mom who is sleeping around. Well, and one of the answers says Jody's mom, X equals 2, Y equals 0. And I worked the algebra for the problem, X, and that was the correct answer. I actually worked through that.
Yeah.
That's the way that they're testing math now. So I'm hoping we'll see some improvement in the math scores, Gary.
In the music classes, they did a little number about it, and it's entitled "Jody's Mom Has Got It Going On."
Yeah.
She's all I want.
I'm dead serious about this.
Oh, I am too.
I've waited for so long.
We're going to have a very large group of people who are basically just gaming blobs. They know how to sit there and play games and eat food, and they understand a portion of the day is reserved for sleeping.
So what you're saying is Wally was prophetic?
What he's saying is he's been watching Mizkif's channel.
My point in saying this is that the people who have jobs are going to be the upper tier. We're going to become a 2-tier society. It's going to be the people who have jobs and the people who don't have jobs. And 50 years from now.
Work is going to be a privilege.
It's going to be a privilege, and we're going to need UBI.
I feel like Geodes wants to say something.
Two things. One, if you think of this as a No Child Left Behind policy, well, this now they've met it because every child is left behind.
Every child is left behind. Well, okay, but dude, the more at-risk kids, the ones that we wanted to give the school lunches, who didn't go to school and get the school lunches, the ones that had the ones that we wanted to have social mobility they would not have received otherwise. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that got kicked in the nuts hardest by this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, but on a more serious note, a lot of people try and make the claim like, oh, well, people are homeschooling because we're seeing all the stuff happening in schools with the transgender push and everything. And it's like, no, I think it's actually because I think they're kind of so the parents that were paying attention realize that, oh, I can teach my kid better. And in some ways,
you probably can. Did you have a chance to look at what the next story is going to be, Geodes?
Not.
I'm just trying to figure out if you're handing me a segue or if
I am not. Know. But feel free to take it like one.
Okay. So I found this amazing website today, and it's called the Greater Good Magazine, and it's actually based out of UC Berkeley.
Hey, Geodes.
Yes.
For the greater good.
Yeah.
The greater good.
So this article is called How Humility Can Make Your Students the Best People Ever. And I think I think a number of you are going to realize that I think this is entirely full of crap.
Communism.
I once had a third grader in my class who was one of those happy-go-lucky, super smart kids bound for great success, but he had a funny quirk. He was obsessed with nuclear bombs. He wrote, talked, and drew about them nonstop, without stopping. Again, nonstop, without stopping to consider their impact on human beings. This is an educator writing about education. He wrote, talked, and drew about them nonstop, comma, without stopping to consider their impact on human beings.
There's so much comma offense in that sentence. It's obscene.
Commas where you don't need them, commas missing where you do need them. Anyway, it's just stupid.
And a sentence that never should have been.
No, it should never have made it past an editor's pencil.
Zakaruski?
Yeah. His super nice mom was totally freaked by this obsession. It didn't align with the family's values, nor was it good for the world. Okay,
Kid.
I'm gonna give you my hot take right away. If you've got a smart kid who's interested in anything technical, anything at that age, and it drives them to learn everything about it, be happy.
Mm-hmm. And
you have a kid that's smart that actually wants to learn something. When I was this kid's age, it was jets and rockets.
Yeah.
Same.
You know, and those could be used for war. So maybe I should just check my privilege.
Jets had just been invented.
I mean, yeah, nurture it, but also pay attention if they steal a bunch of smoke detectors and make a radioactive death ray in their garage.
Yeah, the
like
radioactive
that one 19-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So,
like Travis's comment.
This is. I mean,
seriously though, I mean, it's a kid. How many kids do you see when they're drawing guns and shooting people and bombs? It's nothing. It's kid, and especially boys. Boys are fascinated by machines like that.
When I first learned about D&D when I was just a wee little kid, and it was brand new and shiny. I started reading about things like phalanxes and ballistas and siege machines and all kinds of things. I got frustrated with the fact that the projectile weapon charts were all wrong. They didn't really take into account distance properly, so I basically generated my own.
Of course you did.
I used trigonometry and I made my own.
I love that.
Yeah, but you know, it's like you start getting into like seconds and arc seconds and calculating probabilities and stuff, as one does.
Yep.
But this is
so an archer. Hold on. No, this is important to me. So obviously, as somebody who would use a bow, I would need a high dexterity stat to be proficient with it. But would strength come into play for draw strength and time?
Well, back when I was dealing with it, they didn't really have draw strength of bows. You
only I didn't know if you
only had short bow, long bow, that sort of thing, and they did different damage.
You didn't go full spurt with it.
Elves were a class when Harry was doing it.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
When I was a kid.
Hey, no, Skep. I still have the first edition D&D boxed game. I know.
Good. Keep it.
I just didn't know if Harry went full spurg and did the whole shebang like some of my friends did, or if it was just hey, I just want to do something cool to sort of, put a little something of him into the game. Which
I thought I was
totally
a pretty
awesome.
decent game master, but it was fun when you get people over and play for 24 hours. I kid you not.
Yes.
That's a thing you do when you're a
and
little
the
kid.
stink and the methane afterwards.
Woo! Mom, we need more Totino's pizza rolls. No, they didn't have those then. So this article is sort of tying into what Skep was talking about. I thought it would give us some kind of insight into the BS that Skep was describing earlier, and all of this sort of emotional damage mathematics that you guys have been talking about. They're saying here, intellectual humility is part of a suite of intellectual virtues such as curiosity and open-mindedness. And they proceed to go through this point of basically saying that without humility, you won't basically be constantly questioning whether you're right about things. And without being open to being told that you're wrong about things, you're not going to be open to all of the possibilities. This is just sort of thinly veiled postmodernist bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what you get out of UC Berkeley and their education department. At first glance, intellectual virtues don't appear to cultivate a moral foundation in students, given their emphasis on cognitive development. Yeah, don't do all that thinky stuff. However, don't care, argues that without them, we may become dogmatic, arrogant, or apathetic, all of which have moral undertones. I've been plenty dogmatic in in academic settings before. Dogmatic about like saying, no, you don't know what you're talking about, and here's why. But under this new regime of soy boys who don't actually have any self-confidence and don't have any strong opinions, we have to get that out of them. We have to breed all of that out of these students.
We have to
and replace it with what?
A kinder, gentler, more feeling sort of thing.
Yeah.
for the greater good.
That's right. To accept those limitations without feeling defensive or threatened. It can also make them more open to other people's views. In other words, students who practice intellectual humility feel safe to engage in a discussion in which they share their views with others, and they discover that those views may be myopic or incorrect. They don't take it personally. They just change their thinking and move on. Yeah.
Okay.
Good luck with
All right.
that,
I'm
Sparky.
going to say I'm going to say something in favor of real humility, which is not what I think they're talking about here. What I think is actually being spoken about here is particularly straight white males not being so full of themselves and going through life with their heads down and shutting up and listening, instead of colonizing worlds and going to the moon and stuff like they did. The sad thing is that real humility is a fine value to have and to want to strive for, to truly take a humble approach. True humility. I'm not talking about the crap that they're selling, but true humility is really hard to get and is the height of maturity as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see it very much. You sure don't see it online very much. And
what?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Skep. Finish.
Finish. Yeah.
Let me finish his thought.
Well, and I hate to see them obfuscate the definition of humility by throwing crap like this out here. This is just a second order way that they harm our society, is to damage people's ideas of what actual humility means. Anyway, that's all. Just
thing.
Want to rant for a minute.
You remind me. I think you hit it spot on the head. There's that old adage, like, a simple man thinks he is wise and he's wrong, but a wise man knows that he is simple. Meaning, when somebody who is actually very intelligent knows or has some idea of all the information out there that he does not know. But a simple-minded person will think that they're correct about everything, and in fact, they don't really know much of anything.
Yep.
But think that they're very wise or intelligent.
I don't need.
And I think that you hit it right on the head when it's new speak.
Yeah. Well, it's moral relativism just sort of wrapped up with an intellectual veneer. But I don't need somebody like this telling me to be humble. All I need is a telescope. Just look up. Look up, go to the beach, look at the ocean. You are small.
you are small and
you are
know
small.
And you know nothing.
Exactly. Yeah. But the word, this is basically sophistry to try to get to a conclusion, to get to a place where they want to be. Mm-hmm. The real issue isn't about humility, it's about honesty. Intellectual honesty is the thing to strive for, not intellectual humility. Because if you're intellectually honest with yourself and with other people, all of the problems that they're worried about solve themselves. Humility is just about fanning the flames of a young person's imposter syndrome so they never really get a hold somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a terrible, terrible set of advice.
Absolutely.
And all of these educators are just awful for the most part.
I think the educators, and specifically the education unions, and for that matter, all the public sector unions, or maybe even possibly all the unions, are one of the big problems we're going to have to address probably in the next 15, 20 years.
Well, mark my words, the unions are going to try to use the research I was talking about as a justification for ending homeschooling.
Yep.
That's what they're going to do. They're going to turn it into a rationale for getting rid of homeschooling, because we've proven that kids can't learn at home, and the only way for them to learn properly is in a public school where they get the values that they need.
By the way, granddaughter Isabella took the PSAT 99th percentile.
Nice.
Yep. Homeschooled.
Yeah, the PSAT is a fine test.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember
She uses
it well.
long division.
Oh, no. All right, so let's see. Enough of me talking about education. Speaking of minimizing human beings, I think it was Keeverdam who was commenting when she saw the cut. Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize for bringing this cancer to you. How did I describe this? Let's see, it was education. Let's see, slacktivism. Yes, so slacktivism. This is a terrible, terrible article. I've abandoned the notion of ambition to chase the absolute middle of the road, mediocrity. This unsurprisingly comes after the past 2 years, 2 years filled with intense pandemic parenting, coupled with working full-time. I want to just be, man, and won't let concerns like success or climbing the corporate ladder stand in my way. The new dream is simply no goals, just vibes. The great resignation, paired with the parental primal scream echoing across North America since March 2020, proves that I am not alone in this pursuit of something outside our standard career aspirations. 2022 may be the year my ambition truly dies, and to that I say, good riddance, bitch. As a young adult, I had to be ambitious. It was my only chance of escaping poverty. I knew if I wanted security and stability and comfort. God, terrible sentence. I had to work harder, be smarter, and strive in the most active sense. I chose journalism, so obviously I wasn't quite as wealth-focused as I could have been. Wow. As hard as I worked and as much as I strived, though, I watched far less capable people get promoted ahead of me. I sat through countless interviews for promotions I was more than qualified for, only to hear, "We loved you, but I would inevitably end up training the new hire to do the job I didn't get."
Just wouldn't agree with you.
This is terrible. Serenity,
Yes, sir.
what do you think of this whiny, annoying person?
I think, and here's the thing, I think there is a good idea in there, in a sense. There's people who use, air quotes, ambition to just either destroy everyone around them or destroy themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think finding the middle of the road, like, I'm ambitious. I want my stuff to get out there, but I'm also not going to destroy myself to do it, in the sense of I'm not going to allow my depression to get a hold of me when something doesn't do well or something like that and destroy everything I've built up. So if she was a little less hyperbolic about it, I wouldn't have a problem with what she's saying, because I think people need to understand that there's nothing wrong with working hard and wanting to be like the top and CEO of all that kind of stuff. But it's kind of like what a lot of people tell lawyers, like, you can want to be on the Supreme Court. The statistical likelihood of you ever getting there ain't ever going to happen, but you can want it. And I like the Buddhist thing of finding the middle path.
She's only read the Cliff Notes to Buddhism. That's the problem.
That's the problem, because she calls being in the middle of the road mediocrity. And it's like, no. It's like being in a middle-class neighborhood where you can afford to have some good things and not afford all of the, air quotes, good things is not a bad place to be. Like, we haven't bought a new car in my family in 2 decades. But our cars work fine. We don't need new cars. We don't need to spend a lot of money. The house I live in was built in the 60s. It's been in the family for years. Like, there's nothing wrong with the middle path. It's just she doesn't know how to voice it, and she has to make it look bad I don't know why she's trying to make it look bad when she says that she wants to be in the middle path, though.
Well, mostly this isn't about the middle path. That is a justification for giving up.
True.
And not only is she giving up, but she's giving up, and it's not over her fault. It says, ambition becomes a funny thing when it's blunted by the structural inequality I face as a woman of color in a newsroom. It
I'm
takes on
sorry.
a jagged shape, one that seems designed to maim anyone hoping to grasp it.
I'm sorry.
Okay, oh.
My mother actually had to deal with actual real shit because she was a single mother raising a kid in accounting, which is for women is a very hard field to get into when you consider it was the 80s and 90s. She actually had to, and she didn't have a college education. She only had self-taught and what she learned from like 2 years of technical college, which back then didn't mean anything to some people in the accounting part. Like that she had to fight against. A black woman in a newsroom, please, you're treated like a goddess. Bite me, lady.
In 2020, no.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bite me, lady. You haven't had to fight
Representation
anything.
much?
Were
Probably
you
married
gonna-
to a white
Oh,
man.
sorry. Hold on,
Yes, yeah.
Functional. I think Skep was going to say something, then you.
Okay.
I know that last year 59.7% of all accountants were women. I think that's an interesting stat. And yet I remember there was a time when they had trouble getting into the business. That's a career track I was on for a while. Anyway, the other thing was that I think that this woman is playing to her strengths. I think she should give up. I think she should stop everything, really, and withdraw from society and go the natural way. Begin giving things up until that she gets down to fundamentals like air and water, and she's ready to take that step. I encourage her to do it because I think that's the way she can really offer her very best self to the universe is as fertilizer.
Hey, we're trying to reduce our carbon footprint. We could pitch it that way too. Like,
Yeah, we should end cremation and
Don't we make horrible fertilizer though? Wouldn't we make better feed for?
Shh, she doesn't need to know that.
no. Animals belch. You can't have
I
that.
think we're seeing a little bit of the veil being lifted and how miserable this woman is. And I can't help but wonder if this is part of that trend of, for the most part, not all, but for the most part, women were sold a bill of goods that they could be equally as happy in a corporate or professional setting, like lifetime professional setting, instead of having and raising a family. I mean, I really don't know what to tell these people anymore, because it's like, yes, you were sold a bill of false goods, but why aren't you trying to fix that, or even so much as identify what went wrong, or what is it that's making you truly unhappy, instead of complaining and bitching and moaning and blah 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 blah.
She's not happy because she's not making $30 million as a CNN reporter. That's the reason why she's really not happy.
You can change your life around what you want your life to be, right? So without just giving up, full stop.
Yeah.
There was a business I needed to go to, and it had been open for 78 years and was being run by the daughter and granddaughter of the guy who founded it, who put the whole thing together and made it a success. They open the doors at 8:30. They close the doors at 4. They take a hard hour off for lunch every day. They are open from Monday through Friday.
We're at lunch. Fuck you.
They have basically taken this thing that they've inherited, which is a successful business that has carved out a niche of its own without any obvious competition in their local area. And they have just said, nope, we're good. we're not going to try to modernize. We're not going to try to expand. We're not going to have any kind of work ethic. They just kind of show up, work at sort of a DMV plus 50% kind of pace, and are slowly going to just destroy this business.
Shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves.
They are just waiting for somebody with a little bit of gumption to come in there and just destroy them, a competitor. But they've decided what they're going to do. Like I said, I know a bunch of people I know several people who work in high tech who only work 4 days a week so that they can, still spend more time with their kids raising them. But they only get paid for 4 days a week. I have no problem with people if they choose to work less and take it easy and have a better work-life balance. It's like, you do you. Just don't complain about not being the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and don't insist that the state owes you, unpaid, it's unpaid labor to be a mom, and we need to basically just pay you for those days that you take off. That's where I draw the line, because it's like, it's your choice. Make it. Fine. I actually endorse that. I mean, I bit my lip and I showed up at, 3:51. And they begrudgingly let me in so that I could actually get the thing that I needed. Sorry, I didn't mean to make that about me.
That's real customer service.
I mean, unless you're literally or figuratively or both in the shits doing some of the real hard jobs, don't complain that your stupid little office job is hard.
Especially when you have so many job openings all over the place too. That's.
Oh, you mean the next thing? Oh, you're just trying to be nice, aren't you?
I am.
Well, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this. It's just sort
Captain
of
segue.
because in my mind, there's a start to this, which is what has happened because of the pandemic. People leave California. A lot of these people are just frustrated. There's problems with education. To me, all of these stories that we've talked about, except for the cow farts, are all kind of connected, in my mind. Now, I may be wrong about this, but I see a connection in all of these things. And the Great Resignation, I think, has got to be temporary, because at some point people are going to realize that they actually want to do stuff with their life and that they need some kind of means to do it. You're not going to go to Italy for free on food stamps. Those vacations are not going to pay for themselves.
But everybody can be a TikToker, Harry.
Yeah.
Learn to code.
I'm going to be an influencer. And then people who want to buy my time will pay me to go on vacations.
OnlyFans.
OnlyFans. That's where it ends up.
Well,
all right.
Pay
So
your
yeah,
monthly rent in a night.
And by the way, I know before I even look at chat and realize there's people saying they've been having trouble finding like a specific job. I understand this is 11.5 million jobs that may not have anything to do with your area or your, area of expertise, but it is an awful lot of jobs that are open. Because there's a lot of people that are just still choosing on lower end jobs to just not do them.
A lot of service industry jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's caused problems where I am, but not in the way they think it did, because there's a local chain. Well, not a local chain. There's a chain on the East Coast called Sheetz. Mm-hmm. And they, because of the fact that they're having a hard time finding employees, specifically because they do, like you can order food off of a computer screen and then they'll make it for you and they'll give it to you and all that kind of stuff. And because they're having a hard time finding people who could do cash registers and everything else, they're like, okay, we're all just going to move you to the food side and have self-checkout lanes put in. And they only have one person checkout lane that's for like cash and stuff like that. It's like, this is, I think it was Skep. I think everybody has said this more than once, but it's like, this is going to screw you all over in the long run. And you're not willing to acknowledge it. Like, okay. But there'll become a point when you can't find a job. Yeah,
and I mean, it's been a trend for a while now that the quality of the majority of I'm not going to mince words, lower end jobs has diminished in the Western world. Why? Because manufacturing and automation. Manufacturing has gone overseas. Automation is now taking over a lot of those menial tasks. People are going to be screwed. Like Skep said, it seems like it's getting closer and closer to rounding that bend of work being a privilege and some form of like basic assistance that we're not even trying to course correct at this point. People are embracing it. There's news articles like this, 11.5 million job openings. People hear that, they're like, oh, thank God, jobs are opening back up again. But like Harry said, it's not necessarily the thing that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Or even qualified for. I mean, there's a lot of upper middle class jobs that you need some form of formal training. You can't just go into plumbing. You can't just go into tiling or something like that. You can't just go into database operations. Like you need some form of training.
Yeah, and also I can also as related to like certification stuff as well. A lot of the stuff is now requires a lot more passing certain standards as far as testing and stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, whether you agree or disagree with like the way they handle it, I mean, that's definitely also going to play a factor because certifications usually you have to pay a certain amount of money to upkeep them, and it's not worthwhile having them if you're not going to use them. So
Elon or Harry just has to like get on inventing the matter replicator already. Like enough is enough.
Gonna need a
get
lot
past
more
this.
nuclear power plants to get those things working.
Nuclear.
Yep.
Nuclear.
Nuclear.
Let me see. Okay, next thing. A little bit of Schadenfreude here.
Oh boy.
Even
Oh, more the
forget
cut.
Even Meghan Markle isn't safe from Netflix's cuts.
Good.
Oh darn!
Things aren't looking great at Netflix. Last week, the streaming giant laid off at least 10 writers from TUES, its fan-focused editorial site. Over the past couple months, Netflix increased subscription prices, announced plans to crack down on password sharing, and renewed its dating show, The Ultimatum, for a second season. I don't know what that has to do. A clear sign of end times. However, Netflix's largest cut seems proof of just how dire things are at the company, folks. Meghan Markle's animated Netflix series has been canceled.
I'm sorry.
I know. So there's this one, and then there's this here, this story, which was Meghan McCain and Jill Biden together sell less than 500 books in first week of release date.
You ain't a
It's-
Republican bitch. You're a
It's
fucking
like
Democrat.
it's like there's a group of women who have had so much sunshine blown up their skirt that they have erroneously arrived at the conclusion that we give a shit.
Well, I mean,
And we don't. We don't.
We don't.
Nobody cares about Meghan Markle, honestly, at least not
Bingo.
normal people. I don't care what Meghan McCain thinks about stuff and things, and I certainly don't care about Jill Biden. Sorry, Serenity. What were you going to say?
well, I mean, it's one of those things like with Meghan McCain, she had all these people kissing her butt because of who her dad was, because the people who liked McCain
Well,
would
he's
kiss her
dead.
butt. Well, I know that's a thing. And then Jill, she thought because she could control an old man, she can't even control him very well.
Hey, if her name was Chastity Goldwater, you might get me interested, but I don't.
Yeah.
Meghan McCain, I don't care.
Yeah. And it's like Meghan Markle, like, she's lived off of everyone else's success. Like, all three of them have. Like, no one would know who Meghan McCain was if it wasn't for her dad. Nobody would know who Jill is without her husband. And no one would know who Markle was without her husband. Like, because she's a D-list actress at best.
Mhm.
But it's one of those things like, that's how you know you have too many yes people around you, when you start buying your own hype, because it's like no one would care who you all are without your relations to men. That's the thing. All of it is because of who they are, how they are related to men.
Well,
That's it.
I mean, it's like and not to bring up this case, but just to briefly touch on it, look at what's going on with Amber Heard. You know, it's like she would not be anywhere near she would be nowhere near as popular or infamous as she is now without Johnny Depp. And it's
Oh,
one of
yeah.
those things where it's like this has been an ongoing trend for a while now for some of
Well,
these
it's
people.
It's
And
just
there
funny. I quickly looked up what somebody like Ann Coulter's book sales look like.
Oh,
She sold about
Jesus.
1.3 million copies
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
4
Now,
books.
to be fair, the last time I remember
I don't
looking
like Ann
at,
Coulter.
yeah, no.
Poltergeist.
But to just get on the New York Times bestseller, you have to only sell 5,000 books. That's what it used to be. I don't know if they've changed it, but it used to be you only had to sell 5,000. So never, ever, 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 ever listen to anybody whenever they say, I'm on the New York Times bestsellers list. It takes nothing. The fact that they couldn't even do that.
Well, 500 copies. I mean, Joe probably bought most of those.
They didn't sell more than 500 books. So they didn't
Combined.
even make it to 500. They didn't even make it to that.
Combined.
Yeah.
Like
it's
Joe probably bought like 300 copies of Jill.
and like mom and Meghan McCain's mom probably bought the ones of hers. But
344.
yeah,
copies.
So it's
according to NPR's book scan service, which is considered to be an industry standard.
Yeah, they are. But yeah, no, it's like nobody cares. Like book sales are doing really well too overall. So this is not like people don't want to read books. This is not this. This is just no one cares what they think, because they only are where they are is because of the men in their life. That's the only reason. And there's a lot of women who exist exist in similar ways, but they have enough sense to know that, so they just kind of go, "I'll be over here."
Well, traditionally, what a lot of these women would do is they would support the guy.
Yeah.
So, like, for instance, Skep knows what I'm talking about. To be a successful naval officer, you kind of have to have a successful Navy wife.
Yeah.
That's the way the game is played. And it's
part.
it's not just because she's not the one getting all the ribbons on her chest doesn't mean that she's not part of, Team Skep. No, it's not. It is important, and these women are important, but they sometimes don't get the recognition they deserve, except from the person who needs to say thank you really often.
Yeah.
Which is the person who's their partner. Now, but Jill Biden needs to be in the limelight. It's not enough for Joe Biden to thank her for the pudding cup and kiss her on her forehead. She needs to be loved and adored by more people.
Well, she is a doctor.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I also don't understand, like, when Michelle Obama wrote hers, it was at least after she had been first lady for 8 years. So I understand that. Wouldn't read the damn book because I don't give a damn. But, like, her husband hasn't even been in power a full 2 years by the time she would have written that book.
Yeah, she's no Dolly Madison. Sorry, Functional, what were you going to say?
No, don't apologize. I see your point, Serenity, because, say what you will about the woman, whether you're interested or not, at least she's probably got some good stories to put in a book after being first lady for 8 years. It doesn't matter if it's her or a baked potato. Like, you're going to have some stories. So, you put it to pen to paper and maybe you make a pretty... But like you said, like there's nothing there. There's no substance yet.
Yeah, and it's like Meghan McCain's the same thing. Like, there's no substance there. You were a very famous man's daughter. You were on a half-baked chat show. What do you have to say?
Well, there was a time when she was semi-relevant because what she was essentially before, your Milo Yiannopoulos and people like that, she was for a brief time kind of the voice for younger, more socially permissive Republicans. There weren't a lot of people out there saying what she was saying.
But I think
and then she kind of, you think she was controlled opposition?
In a lot of things, yeah.
I think she was just doing what was good for her. I don't see how anybody was controlling her. It was just right place, right time. But that 15 minutes is kind of over. There's like a whole bunch of other people that have come along since then. Yeah. And are doing what she's doing way better. Or what she was doing way better. She's not really all that important right now. Just my take. And
not to be completely... I'm going to be a little rude, but being the only female here, I'm going to be rude. She's also not that attractive. Like
all women are equally attractive.
Sure. And either her personality, it's mostly her personality that makes her unattractive, at least in my eyes. I know guys see things differently if you're a straight male, but her personality does still put you off. I'm not stupid, but it's like she's just a grating. She's the View. That's what she is. Like, that's how she is. Like, she is that person. Like, she is a grating, egotistical, arrogant, spoiled little rich kid who, yes, she had some good, like, social commentary at one point, but she very, very blatantly, obviously, like, I don't mind nepotism. I don't mind people who use, like, their parents or someone as a jumping off point, as long as they actually have the talent.
Well, that's what I was going to say. No, she's got a lot of talent. She's got a lot of accomplishments that she's done independently of her parents. She has a degree in art history.
Oh boy!
Yeah,
from a college, sort of.
Well, the market has spoken. When you talk about the value of something, it's what somebody's willing to pay for it. And if they've sold less than 500 books between the two of them, clearly people just aren't that into them.
That's exactly, lady. I'm not into you. The first.
This is what economists call revealed preference.
Yes.
CNN back when it was the free thing that you watched when you were hoping not
airport?
to get probed by TSA.
Yep.
That was one thing, but when people say, "Oh, you want me to pay money for
Pay
this?"
for CNN? Seriously?
What, and this,
that thing that's on at the airport, you want money for this?
and I think they would have had a bit better sales had the timing been better. Had McCain's book come out during Trump's era, I think she would have sold more.
Yep.
And had Jill's come out in the first 3 to 6 months Biden was in presidency, before the numbers started to tank like a fucking lead bullet, I think they would have sold better. But whoever at these publishing companies decided, no, now's the time.
Meghan McCain needs a much better publicist, full stop.
Yes.
She basically needs to find out whoever Anna Kendrick has hired and then get her.
Let me just tell you something, though. I've been watching Pawn Stars long enough. You should buy a mint condition copy of each one of these books and put it in like a xenon gas infused cupboard where nothing will react with it. Because I think that copies of these books, this is the kind of book that becomes rare. It's weird, and there aren't many going into circulation. When I see something like this that has a lot of notoriety, but there's not a lot of it in circulation, I kind of go, that's a chance for somebody to make some money down the pipe, because that'll be an interesting thing. It's not a huge score, but it's just something that's going to be unusual in about 20 years.
I'll put it next to my copy of If I Did It by O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Serenity.
Well, to be completely honest, if the trajectory for Biden's administration is going to continue going the way it's going, that Jill Biden book may actually be worth a lot of money at one point, because people will be going, maybe we can get some insight.
Well,
You
I think
never
the
know.
publishers or the publicist or whoever is in charge of it, we're just worried that the walls are going to come crashing down and the book would become even more worthless than the worthless.
I want to know their
toilet paper
advances.
is, or that
wanna know what
Joe
advances
would have
they
died and what? The advance?
No. Basically, when the book is sold to the publisher, there's amount of money that's handed out as an advance.
Yeah.
And it's
That's what
supposed
I
to
was
be.
asking.
It's supposed to be. Well, you understand what it is then. Okay.
Yeah. I was just trying to clarify if she meant that kind of book advance.
Sorry,
Yeah,
if I'm saying nuclear, I'm already reached the point of being a little tired.
Yeah.
So
No.
Next thing I'm going to say vehicle.
Nuclear. You aren't saying nuclear. I'm teasing you for not saying nuclear.
Oh, I thought I was saying
No,
nuclear.
No.
Nuclear is the correct
Mitochondria. Let's talk about mitochondria. That's the powerhouse of the cell.
or urtichondria.
If I remember correctly, it depends on the wording of the contract you do with the publisher, but if the book doesn't sell, you have to pay that advance back.
Depends on the
It
contract.
just
like
depends
Yeah.
on the
I don't
contract.
think Jill got that kind of contract.
I think Meghan probably did. But I
But
don't
like
think-
Scott Adams, on his, he doesn't have to pay anything back. But there's also a limit. He doesn't make anything more than the advance typically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
these guys will not have to pay back their advance, and here's why. The companies who publish these trash books, and these companies publish books, they know what's going to happen. They knew that this wasn't going to sell. They knew that this was turkey. But what they do is they will plop down a bunch of money. It's just an investment in public relations in the circles in which they go in, and there will be senior executives at places like Simon Schuster. Oh yes, we published the First Lady's book, and it's worth $500,000 or whatever, just for the privilege of saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Geodes.
I was gonna say, I wonder if they'll be able to file a lawsuit against the publisher if it doesn't work out in the long run.
No, Skep's absolutely right. That's my thought on these things, is that it's just a different form of the payoff. Much like when one of the parties is out of power, the people get these jobs at think tanks. And it's like, well, what do you do at this think tank? I don't know. They just kind of sit on their thumb all day until they go back into power. It's just a place where you hold people and feed them money so that they can buy Pez or something until they go back to work when their party's in charge again.
Or Parmesan.
Yeah, it's just part of it's just part of the way the game is played. It's all just BS. And there's a certain amount of gravitas to saying that you are the publisher that presidents and their families go to. So it's totally worth whatever the printing run and the galley sheets cost for this thing.
Right.
And let's face facts, the internet is a great resource to listen to more interesting people talk about the same topics who might be more entertaining, better looking, any number of factors that can appeal to people. And you know what? Most of it's free.
Well, let's. I'm gonna skip.
And if you really like somebody, then yeah, you sign up for their monthly Patreon or whatever, and you get the exclusive content or whatever. But the point is that there's a whole marketplace of ideas out there, and if you've got nothing, no substance, you're not gonna get anything anymore.
Well, I'm gonna skip.
If it's free, the price is 1 U.
Yeah. I'm going to skip the Hoosier Justice article and go straight to line 23, Geodes.
Okay.
Lawmakers in 19 states want legal refuge for trans youths. Now, this is fine, and I really don't need to explain all of this stuff.
Are they trying to get rid of their trans youth? They want other states to take them, or what?
Well, basically what these 19 states are trying to do is say, hey, if you aren't getting the kind of affirmative care for your gender transition, or you're having trouble being gay or different in the state that you're in, come to one of our states and we will basically provide you sanctuary.
We'll give you gender affirming health care.
Let me get this part out, and then you can be next, I promise. So this person, Wiener, of course, said that he immediately began hearing from other states after coming forward with his bill, which would reject any out-of-state court judgments removing children from their parents' custody because they allow gender-affirming health care. It would also make arrest warrants based on alleged violation of another state's laws against receiving such care the lowest priority for California law enforcement.
So we're going to do what we want to do.
Yeah, so we're going to let you come here, and even though you may have taken a minor across state lines, etc., etc., etc.,
good Lord,
we're just not going to follow up on any of those laws that you broke.
Yeah.
So it's
First of all, I'm going to...
Yeah, go ahead, functional, and then...
I'm going to take the piss. Scroll back up.
Okay. You're going to comment
Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Wiener.
Wiener.
Yep.
Do I need to say anything more?
Now, what is his first name?
Scott Wiener.
Is it Scott?
Yeah. Should say at the top of the photo.
Oh, it is Scott.
Yeah, Scotty Wiener.
It's Senator Scott Wiener.
Yeah, he's a total dickhead. But I mean, it's the language they use is
the soy
disgusting.
runs deep.
It's revolting.
Yeah.
You guys know I'm fairly liberal on a lot of things, but even the language that they use, gender affirming healthcare, bullshit. That's child mutilation. You are mutilating people's bodies for your own political gain. It's fucking disgusting. I'm having enough of it. And oh my God, stop. I don't care what you do once you become an adult. Let's stop mutilating children.
Well, if we do recognize the rights of the parents, right? If we decide, it's the question of who decides. Do we trust the state to decide? Do we trust the parents to decide?
Harry,
no matter what we do, there are going to be mistakes. Now, if there are going to be parents that are going to sign off on doing things to kids that probably are not in their best interest, and that may just be the least bad option in some cases. I'm not really good with giving the keys to the castle to the government for much of anything. I don't think the government is fit for purpose to decide in a lot of cases.
We give a lot of leeway for them to, how can I put this, enforce laws. And you're not allowed to take your child aside and cut off their arm. Why is it okay then to say, well, we're going to cut off his penis? That's not ideological. That's just simple. I know it's a fucking misnomer at this point, but common sense. You don't let, especially children. Again, I'll say this for the umpteenth time. They should be the only protected class of humans. and body mutilation is part and parcel. You wouldn't let them drown their children. Hell, we don't even let parents beat our children, which, pretty good that we don't let them do that. But cutting off body parts, like using drugs to genetically alter their chemical balances of hormones and development through puberty. This is damaging stuff.
Well,
again, I don't care what they want to do when they become adults, but we cannot abdicate that parents are allowed to commit violent acts on their children. We already don't.
Well, I can tell you what I abdicate. I abdicate knowing whether or not this is something that's necessary. Okay? I don't have to know. As long as there's a process that makes sense. If the kid had cancer and you had to amputate an arm because of bone cancer, you wouldn't bat an eye. You'd say, oh, that's unfortunate, but, the parent had to do this thing. The problem is we have these parents that are sort of doing this Munchausen by proxy thing. Mm-hmm. So how would you deal with Munchausen by proxy and other things? See, I don't have to know whether there are actually transgender kids or not. That's just outside of my pay scale right now. It's not anything I've researched. I don't know. I just want to know that there's a process that fairly takes care of the kids to make sure that they're not being abused by parents who have Munchausen or some related thing. Because again, I'm also not a psychologist.
Most of the people who wind up as confidants of these children, I think there's a significant proportion of them who have some troubling motives for wanting to be near the children.
Shopping for doctors is also a problem because that's the same as shopping for doctors for pain pills. It's not enough to just find 2 doctors that are pro-trans whatever and then go shopping and say, oh, well, I got my 2 doctors. I've signed off on the form. Okay, just start cutting. That's not really the process that we want either. But to my mind, the idea that states are going to start messing with other states via this mechanism is a whole different expansion of the problem that we have here. For leaving aside the problem of the parents and the kids and the teachers and all this sort of stuff, what the hell is going on with these states essentially having cold wars against each other over this stuff? You can't just traffic kids across state boundaries. You can't. Yeah. There are rules against this thing. And you can't just decide you're not going to enforce them.
But at the root of all this, who's responsible for this is Trump.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's responsible for everything.
He is.
So there you go.
Exactly.
Bob's your uncle and Fanny's your aunt.
To speak a little bit to what Functional said at one point about how it affects the kids later on in life, they're starting to have the first generation of some of them who have gotten older. Specifically, I think it's M to F. Transitioners are starting to realize that they have a lot of, some of them are having to get hip transplants. They're having to get their jaws looked at because the bone density isn't where it needs to be, because their puberty was interrupted. And that's the thing that they're all starting to realize, that some are starting to realize, is that puberty is integral to human beings. You can't stop it.
Definitely. You
can't slow it down. Don't touch it. Because it is integral to brain growth, everything. Just going to go with the word everything. And they're starting to find that even just delaying it toward the end of puberty is causing bone density problems in a lot of people. They talked about it in England. They haven't really talked about it here in the States yet, mostly because there's not as much info.
Well, that's just a Trump fact.
Oh, yeah, exactly. The fact that these people
thus
were
they're trying to suppress a lot of it.
Transitioned under Obama doesn't matter, but yeah.
Yeah, and there's even a couple of court cases being presented against the NHS, the National Health Service in the UK, for some of these, I don't even remember, but individuals who were sold that bill of goods that this is going to, be okay and safe and everything, and now that they're having severe medical issues and health issues because directly correlated to the transition process when they were younger adults or teenagers, and I mean, we'll see what comes of that, but if we
it ain't gonna be pretty, I'll tell you right now.
It wasn't my intent to try to solve this problem, but
as
a humble suggestion, if we're going to do this a little bit, We're going to dip our toe in these waters. What should happen in these cases where the kid or the teachers or the people who've gotten their hands on the kids, the groomers, right, for lack of a better word, where the groomers get their hands on this kid and the parents don't want to have anything to do with it, they should have to go through a process similar to becoming an emancipated minor. And just becoming pregnant isn't enough. You should have to actually stand before somebody who is completely impartial and in a position to make a responsible decision. In this case, it would be a judge. And make your case for why you should be emancipated. And once you're emancipated, you can chop off all the body parts you want.
Yep.
But trying to force some kind of transition on a kid against the parents' wishes seems like a really bad idea to me. Because, like I said, it's who decides. And as bad as it is with some of the parents and the Munchausens and things like that, I still think you're better off with the parents deciding than the government deciding. Because I don't trust the government at all to decide.
Yeah.
I want to do a quick hot take on that. I actually think a substantial proportion, I suspect a substantial proportion of children who are in transition are only that way because an adult got a hold of them and talked them into it. I think I'll bet it's a substantial percentage. It might even be a majority.
Sorry, I was just reading through the comments. We ended up talking about male circumcision. Okay. Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. Anyway, so we've gone off on a little bit of a tangent here. Let me...
Well, we've been going for 2 hours now off tangents.
Yeah.
I know, we're doing okay.
Good job.
What were you going to say, Gio?
Tangentially, I think we're doing very well.
I was going to say that, actually, I was wondering, I know that we're kind of trying to wrap up, but could we actually cover the tech article? Because actually, I think that's kind of a big one.
Which one are we talking about here?
The one right underneath the lawmakers in 19 states.
Oh, yeah. Hold on, that's bipartisan. No, we're going to finish. I just want to move on to the next thing.
We're going to finish, goddammit.
Okay.
Bipartisan bill. Yeah, I don't care if we run long. I'll write Skep a note that he can give to his wife.
No, Harry, all I was doing, because you said you lose track of it sometimes. So I was just
No, you're fine.
That's all I was doing.
I'm so tired. Okay. Bipartisan bill would push big tech and big media to make content distribution deals. So this is a lot like what was going in the European Union Congress a couple years ago. And I think it was similar to Article 13. Bear with me for a moment. A bunch of senators, don't care, are backing a bill that empowers mainstream media at the expense of smaller outlets and independent content creators. There's a little opinion in this article, sorry. The senators are co-sponsoring the Journalism Competition and Preservation Act, which has been accused of actually hindering competition. I know, a government act that does the opposite of what's in the name.
What a concept.
It's kind of surprising that Rand is on board with this.
Yeah, that makes me mad.
Well, let's give them a chance here, because I mean, obviously, there's pros and cons to this thing. Instead of promoting competition in the world of media, the bill would allow mainstream media companies like CNN, New York Times, blah blah blah, to form an alliance and collectively bargain with big tech platforms. These mainstream outlets would be able to form new deals with online platforms that would force tech platforms to uprank their own content at the expense of independent content creators and independent voices.
So it would be just like it is now.
Right. The bill has a provision allowing legacy media to exclude companies that are not similarly situated, meaning independent journalists and small media companies will not get the benefit of the bargains with big tech. Now, I know a little bit about this sort of thing. I think a lot of this is a little bit overblown. Just my opinion. Like Skep said, like they already do. So this sort of relates to the idea of net neutrality. And what you're saying is that we want these news that like big tech companies to not basically push down independent content creators in search engine results, for instance. That's what it sounds like they're saying.
Yeah.
Because these people are basically, giving each other a reach around between the media and everybody else. That doesn't mean that small content creators can't produce the content that people actually want to see, right? They can't use fair use, for instance. I mean, independent content creators can use fair use, like we do here,
Yeah.
to talk about things that people actually want to talk about. I mean, I think that the big dinosaur stupid companies, even this bill is not going to give them the real advantage, because you see more people cutting cable, more people just not even bothering with TV and just gravitating towards stuff on YouTube. Even as they try to suppress the rankings, independent content creators just keep kicking ass all the time. And I think it's just getting more and more that way.
Yeah.
I don't see this as... I don't think it's necessarily fair, but I don't see it as this apocalyptic event, I guess is what I'm clumsily
It's
trying
not
to
going to
say.
help them that much. It's not going to help them that much. These putative alliances that they're talking about here, if you go back and say CNN, the New York Times, Washington Post, and MSNBC, ladies and gentlemen, that group competes against one another. They're not going to form any kind of alliance that's going to have any lasting power or have any breadth to it in terms of interests. At most, they'll get together here and there, a few of them here and there on one particular issue or another. I don't think these grand alliances will come to fruition at all, because those guys are just too intent on cutting one another's throat at every turn.
Well,
It's amazing how hard they try, Skep, to suppress the free market.
Yep.
Well, look
They
at you've got sellers and you've got buyers. So what we're talking about is a group of the biggest sellers and the biggest buyers all closing themselves in a smoke-filled room, and the government giving them permission to basically set the rules for what things cost collectively for all the sellers and all the buyers.
Yeah.
And this is giving them cover for doing that kind of thing. Sorry, go ahead, Functional.
We actually have laws against that in Canada. I don't know if you guys have those kinds of similar. I don't remember what they're called, but like when industries price fix,
It's called conspiracy.
conspiracy. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, monopoly. There's anti-monopoly laws, but there's all, which is one thing. Where this is where you'll have 2, 3, 4 big companies, but they'll all just collude, conspire to set specific prices so they don't have to compete as much. And I just, God, I hate that kind of stuff, because again, I'm really into a free marketplace, and the best ideas, the best products, the best services should float to the top.
Yeah,
They should
I want
be
them
allowed
competing.
to and not suppressed by government intervention.
So suppose you start your own coffee company, Functional, and you decide you're going to have functional coffee, and you go out looking to make deals to, basically advertise your coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And you find that every advertiser you go to that's like big enough to make it worth your time to deal with them all charges you the same rate. Because they basically sat down in a smoke-filled room and made some sort of deal. That would suck, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Don't you want them to be competing with each other? Because it
I want
feels
them
like
to
there's
want me.
It
Yeah.
feels like there's a rotting onion floating in the middle of this bill that they haven't thought their way through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, that's why I think that it's because I'm somewhat of a fan of Senator Rand's speeches and some of the things he says during congressional hearings, but to see him attached to such a bill, it's kind of disappointing. I mean,
Well, it might be interesting to hear his reason.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm probably going to look it up tomorrow when I have some time. I'm not under the illusion that anybody is I'm going to agree 100% with, or that anybody's perfect in my eyes. But that's something that's near and dear to my heart. Has been somebody who was there since day one of the internet, basically, and saw it grow and the potential for it, only to be later suppressed by big entities like the United States government and legacy media. It's somewhat depressing, because the potential for the internet is massive.
Yep.
Both economically and in the marketplace of ideas.
Yeah, honestly, these companies can just publish their rates. People can buy ad space, and they can say in the rates, hey, if you want preferred placement in like search results or on our pages, you just pay a little bit more and we give you premium placement. I don't care.
That's
I don't care.
Kind of why I'm kind of on board with Elon's idea for Twitter. Like, if you want to have a solid verified account, you pay $3 a year or whatever, or $3 a month, or you can just remain anonymous and just be a user and do whatever you want with it.
Right.
So you're paying for that little bit of extra. You know, I'm hoping, or I'm not hoping. I'm banking on the fact that he wants to give Twitter more its legitimacy back, instead of it just being constant reactionary stuff being brought to the forefront. Like, naturally organic stories and people of interest will filter to the top in the marketplace of ideas.
So how are we doing, Geodes?
Sorry, I'm being a little long-winded.
We're good, I think.
Did I answer the questions that you had in mind, or did you want to add something to this?
No, I just thought it's important because they actually list the people who are backing this thing, and I think that's something that, I mean, you know, it's one of those things where I'm starting to keep track of websites like govtrack.us and stuff, where they show who voted on what and stuff, and
Damn straight.
I think we really ought to start paying attention to that a lot more. It's similar to the person who put the sign up saying this person voted, mask your kids, in my opinion.
They like it better when you can't remember anything that happened more than 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason that Biden's getting good numbers on the pandemic is because it's become less important and people are already starting to memory hole all the bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's all starting to seem like, oh yeah, he's doing a good job. You know, I'm not dead. It's fine. And as they
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, this is an interesting bill. I'm just looking at it. This bill creates a 4-year safe harbor from antitrust laws for print, broadcast, or digital news companies to collectively negotiate with online content distributors, social media companies, regarding the terms on which the news company's content may be distributed by online content distributors. So it's basically saying you can do this thing that basically the article accuses them of for 4 years.
There is absolutely nothing stopping
4 years they get relief from the Sherman Act.
Right. Well, there's nothing stopping the buyers from basically producing some sort of entity. We won't get into the details of how they do this because they're not that interesting for anybody other than like me and Skep probably.
Yeah.
But you could create an entity that basically goes out and takes requests for advertising and placement and these things from multiple sources and then approaches the public media companies with these things to basically buy those services without necessarily even knowing whether it's going to come from AOL or Yahoo or whoever, right? There's no reason why buyers can't consolidate their buying power to basically increase it. My problem is the sellers colluding. I don't like the idea of getting rid of antitrust to allow the sellers to basically collectively put this together. If you wanted to have an intermediary that basically bought the stuff in bulk so that the sellers, you know, sort of like an MVNO for cell phone coverage, you know, you can certainly do things like that. But this idea of allowing the smoke-filled room for 4 years kind of rubs me the wrong way.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair reaction.
Speaking of rubbing the wrong way, man who grew penis on arm wants to date Kate Beckinsale.
I thought this was heartwarming because I saw a lot of people talking about this story, and this kind of was a little bit more on the less technical side, more like kind of emotional side, and it kind of felt. You kind of feel sorry for the guy because, you know, he lost his tallywhacker with a blood disease or something, and they basically had to reconstruct one on his arm.
Yeah.
But Kate heard about this and like tweeted out to saying, you know, man, this you know, I can't really feel for the guy, but like I feel for the guy, and you know, it's brave that he came out, and I hope, you know, like it takes a strong man to go through something like that or something like that. And he was like, you know, if she's looking to date, I'm single. I'm ready to get back in there. I got my tallywhacker reinstalled, baby. Let's go.
Well, this does raise more than a few questions, this headline. So, as Functional basically mentioned, this man is Malcolm McDonald, a divorced dad who had an artificial penis crafted on his forearm after his real willy dropped off onto the floor. Has attracted the attention of actress Kate Beckinsale. And he wants to take her out on a date. Because Functional covered this. Instagram, McDonald is thrilled to be on Beckinsale's radar, now telling the Sun, I'm ready to date again. The mechanic who revealed that he is able to have sex again after his artificial penis was surgically removed from his arm and installed in his pubic area said he'd pay for the date with the film and TV star. That is a great sentence, honestly. It does seem a bit weird to say you want to go basically have coffee with Kate Beckinsale, but point out that you're fully functional.
That's just
It
wrong.
wasn't. This article worded it weirdly. It was. I know it's funny, but it was more detached. Oh God, it was more of a separate thought than that, because they were talking about, they wanted to know, does it, after the surgery, like, how is it working, whatever. And he's like, yeah, I'm able to, use it. And then, later on in the interview kind of thing, he was like, and yeah, I'd love to take her on a date. It's just weird how they smushed that together and changed the perspective.
Well,
but it was also funny because he was regaling stories of how, he would whack his family members in the head with his member when going for a hug. And I'm like, oh God, no, Terry, no. Or Malcolm, no.
Well, okay, so this happened back in 2010. Okay. Now, you'd say, how did it go all the way from 2010 till now? There was a lot of time that was spent essentially as they sort of were trying to stretch the skin on his arm to form this synthetic penis that they were growing for him. That took a while, but then I guess because of, too bad Sora isn't here, just sort of general incompetence of the National Health Service and then COVID, he ended up having this thing on his arm for 6 years longer than they expected. So he was just walking around for 6 years with just like a penis on his forearm.
It's like something you see out of a weird mass movie.
Yeah, and just seeing these pictures of him where they
face.
just keep pixelating.
Pixelating the penis arm.
His arm.
Yeah. So
Because we are so weird about that.
You might want to be careful. The next graphic, it's kind of graphic.
it's technical. It's fine.
Okay.
The Post detailed McDonald's extraordinary story, which he began back in 2010 when his penis just dropped off onto the floor after he suffered an infection of his perineum. Surgeons subsequently manufactured a new penis for the father of two using a skin flap on his left arm. They planned to move the man-made member down to his pubic area, but were forced to stop the operation due to a lack of oxygen in his blood. McDonald was left with the artificial phallus poking out of his forearm. The second surgery to move the manhood between his legs was delayed for 6 years due to scheduling mix-ups, staff shortages, and COVID-19.
Yeah. What do you want to bet this guy's a diabetic? Almost guarantee you this guy's a diabetic.
Yeah, that actually would explain a lot of things.
Yeah, that explains that face.
Like that compo face.
But Functional was right. Kate Beckinsale was pretty cool about it. She was just saying, was it on Instagram? I was just looking for some kind of good news. Just something out there that wasn't depressing.
Yeah, no, right on Kate. That
Yeah.
little bit of faith, in humanity returns just for a moment.
Yeah.
He's dashed again.
Who's that idiot that's Pete Davison is the one who's dating Kim Kardashian? So she was dating that idiot for a while, not very long. I don't know if it was long enough for him to actually tattoo. He has tattoos from all of his ex-girlfriends. He's got a ton of tattoos. Honestly, I think it's like a sleaze off now between Davison and Hunter Biden. And I think Hunter's looking better at this point than Pete Davison.
Where he has the tattoos is also just as important. Let's put it that way.
I think compared to Davison, this guy would be a huge step up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For Kate Beckinsale. So I'll pay for their dinner if they want to go out.
The fact that Kate Beckinsale didn't get any venereal diseases from Pete is amazing. That guy just looks like a walking one. Like I'm just like
He does.
I do not understand women's attraction to him. I'm like, what is attractive about a skinny, pathetic man who's only where he is once again because of his father?
Yeah.
Like, blah, blah, blah.
So anyway, we had actual
She's older
penis
than him.
news this time. By a little bit.
I
But
like
she's-
this penis news. This is refreshing.
Yeah. Man
Refreshing
who grew penis on
penis
arm
news.
Yes.
wants to date Kate Beckinsale. Perfect.
Hey man, shoot for the moon.
Ah,
Maybe you'll still hit
Again, the phrasing is kind of a little taken
Yeah.
out of context.
Yeah.
He's not really under any illusions that she's probably
Yeah.
going to say yes, but if she says yes, then holy shit. But
no, but it
was
makes a good
a
story.
nice gesture on her part to just sort of be like, that's cool.
No,
Yeah.
she
Really
was fine.
cool, you
She
know.
was fine about it.
Probably made him, genuinely smile for the first time in 6 years. God damn it.
No, I mean, I'm sorry his dick fell off.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
I mean,
would wish
I
that on-
occasionally, when I'm trying to talk about things like with customers, say, oh, it's really, really important, and it depends on how well I know them. It's like, well, are we talking about everybody's genitals falling off, or is this just sort of regular important? And,
like
I may not joke about that anymore.
as much as I hate Keek yogurt, chunky yogurt, the TYT guy,
Mhm.
and want to shoot him in 7 Days to Die. I don't want his penis to fall off.
No.
Yeah.
Like that's just mean, man.
Yeah. I want his
Yeah.
sons to fall off.
This song doesn't have one.
Depends
True.
on how badly you don't want them to reproduce.
Oh,
Great.
No, like I said, you just take him out behind your base in 7 Days to Die and pop him in the back of the head.
There you go.
Besides,
Well,
Chink's
anyway,
Chink's already
Build a
reproduced.
woodshed.
good on you, Kate Beckinsale,
Yeah.
for being a decent human being, and good on you, Guy, for getting a shiny new penis. And
Exactly.
you have spent 2 hours and 22 minutes listening to this,
Dun dun dun.
and we are all very grateful. Any final thoughts before we go?
Dicks out for Harambe.
Dicks out for
Oh.
Harambe, always good.
Dicks out. Dicks out.
I had a quote. 'cause
Go ahead.
We were there we go. It was something that was brought to my attention the other day. It's actually printed on our passports, and it's Canada is free and freedom is its nationality, by one of the founders of our bloody nation, Sir Wilfrid Laurier. And I mean, just looking at some of the stuff that he and John Diefenbaker and the other founders of our country outright said and imagined for our country, to see the state that we're in today is just kind of
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I'm gonna say goodnight, everybody. Good night,
Good night,
everybody.
everybody.
Good night,
Thanks.
everybody.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night. We're sweepsies.